listening to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast.
Do.
That was good.
Yeah.
You had your opportunity. You left it on the ground. It was just a softball, and you let it fall.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast. I'm Caleb. I'm your host. And I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Reed Robinson
Howdy.
and Hunter Grishke.
Ew.
If you are tuning into the show for the first time, you're likely to find one of three segments. Segment number one is What You Got, Buddy? That's where we will bring pre-prepared articles and headlines and talk about them at length. It can be as short as 35 minutes and as long as 2 hours, depending on how spicy the topics are. Segment number two.
Segment number two is our Spotlight series, where we search our network of people in the outdoors industry. We bring them on or down to the PodBunker. In on the conversation, we get to know who they are, what makes them interesting in the outdoors world, and we bring you guys along for the ride. Segment number three.
Segment number three is our head-to-head game show series, where we have a quiz master, bunch of questions, go head-to-head, and see who knows more, and we crown a winner at the end.
Guys, you clicked on it, so you know what it is this evening. We have our Spotlight series. We're actually coming at you live, as always, from the PodBunker. We've got a special guest with us today. We're really excited about this one. In the PodBunker with us is Mr. Jon Durtka with Purely Michigan Spearfishing. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me in this pretty awesome PodBunker. My first time ever.
What was your first impressions?
Very, very cool. It's also much smaller than I thought.
Dang it.
In the videos, it looks much bigger. Not saying it's a bad thing. Very
Thanks.
close quarters. But
Here's the thing. It's a little more intimate. It gets people talking.
I
You don't
love
have to
it.
shout across the room.
It's well decorated. Incredible signs. Great taxidermy and all kinds of little shelf art, whatever you want to call it.
Little knickknacks.
Yeah,
and
there you
What
go.
was it
Knick-knack.
referred to as at one time? A chill dude
a
lounge or
chill
something?
dude lounge.
Chill dude lounge.
Or, as I was told earlier, a cigar lounge.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this evening is about you. We want to know everything. So, Jon Durtka, who the heck are you?
Man, I'm just a normal Michigan kid, born and raised in Southeast Michigan, and just hunting, fishing, gathering has been my life pretty much. So that's about as simple and basic as it gets.
Where did it all start? What was the earliest age you can remember getting the bug or loving the outdoors?
You know, I think the first big thing I ever did was fishing. I caught a master angler red ear sunfish on 4 Mile Lake with my grandpa. And I remember everybody freaking out because they're like, that's so big. And they're like, we got to take it to an IGA to get it weighed. The IGA.
Did you just drop it in like the little like?
Yeah, I don't know.
produce
Yeah, it was literally like the scale on
did, really?
at the meat counter. Yeah, it's like you get your
Here,
salami.
this is in a Ziploc. Put it on the scale.
Like literally, just put it in one of them little dishes and then just slapped it on there. It was like, I don't know, like 12 ounces or something like that.
And that was the master angler.
That was a master. Oh, it was a slab, man. It was big.
Oh, really? Okay.
But that was like my first experience, like really memorable experience.
Did you get a little plaque? Did you get it mounted?
We got a little patch.
Oh, sweet.
A little smash.
Yeah.
They sent the whole thing in. It was like real cool. That was like my first.
Okay, so you
like,
kind of been a big deal off the get go.
I guess maybe if my grandpa said it's true.
There you go.
So, fishing was where it all started. What other areas of the outdoors since then have you gotten plugged into?
Hunting, kind of after really late high school, I got into hunting. Archery, I didn't really know much about archery. Family was always Mayo, Michigan, rifle season. Like archery equipment was never really
Deer camp,
deer camp.
the
Exactly.
words, Fud Nation is
Yep,
what we call it.
yep. Orange Army. That was it.
sir.
And I didn't really get into that until after that. But archery learned how to shoot a bow, learned how to, sight in a bow. That was like the big thing. I was a lefty, so nobody, really knew how to work with me.
Still are? You gave that up?
No, I still do it. I actually missed a really nice 8-point buck because I'm a lefty this year, and that's what it is. But once I got into that, I guess kind of started running with that for a while, and I didn't have any private land to hunt, so I had to go to public, and before you knew it, chasing deer in public, and you kind of get good at it after a while.
Did you enjoy the challenge aspect of it, or was it as frustrating as
it was
everybody
so
says?
frustrating? But I learned, I think the biggest lesson I ever learned was I put in a ton of effort in the early season to like get my first stand set up. Like this is before like saddles were invented, or, you know,
Popular.
who was it Lone Wolf, like custom gear, any of that kind of hang on stuff was ever worked. So you just carry out 35 pounds of steel on your back.
Did you have the old style climbers?
Oh no,
Oh,
not even
no?
that. No, I'm talking actual. Like,
Oh, you had the whole ladder
yeah,
system.
the whole. You had
Oh,
like 20
gosh.
feet of ladders and the hang on and the
my
shafts. Oh
Those
yeah,
are so brutal.
brutal. And
yeah,
then,
and that first, okay, when you like launch that thing up on the tree and then you got to like scamper up the ladder when it's still, oh my gosh, dude, you just sit there.
so yeah, welcome to my first experience. And then you do all this work and you're like, oh, it's gonna be so great. And then you go out there and there's 13 other people hunting in the same area you are. You're like, this is crap, man. And so what did I do? I just climbed down. I said, I'll never do that again. And I just drove around and was like, where's nobody hunting? And then that's where I hunted and I seen deer. And I was like, all right, this is definitely the way to hunt public land, is just,
So what, you just keep going in deeper? Looking for the...
I wouldn't even say deeper. Actually, I say almost closer to the roads is better.
Yeah.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
I've always been a huge advocate for that, especially with us in this area. We're really, really heavy on suburban and urban deer. And there's something to be said. Everyone assumes the deer are going to the deepest, thickest spots, but when in reality, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be close to roads and food
Just like the
sources.
PodBunker, they want to be able to see you.
Exactly.
They want to watch you park. They want to watch you. I can't tell you how many times I've kicked up deer so close to the most heavily used walking paths and bike trails and things of that nature. I just can't tell you how many times they're almost in eyesight from very heavily used, public access points.
They're so smart and so dumb. They can pattern you and know when your truck is there, and then they'll jump out in front of a 33,000 pound salt truck going down the road just because.
Been there, done that,
Yep.
got the salvage tag to prove it.
He said, I can get out. I'm faster that truck.
Yeah, right.
Last year, my uncle smoked a deer in a salt truck last year. Yeah, and in my salvage tag, I wrote the description pre-salted. And, yeah.
Okay.
Solid.
So
Pre-seasoned, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So since you switched to a saddle now in your mature, seasoned public land age, do you think now that there's saddles, has it made it even worse because everybody can go everywhere and there's no preset stands, or are you still just working with the FUDs?
No, it's interesting because now you don't know where anybody's hunting, right?
Oh,
so,
geez.
right? So
That's
outside of like trail cams being like set or hung in areas, because everything's cellular now, most of it, right?
Yeah.
Especially the guys who are really trying to get it done. If you don't find cell cameras, like you have no idea if someone's hunting there or not. Like there could be all kinds of good sign and everything's up and down and never stays in the woods. So
October 1st, the sun comes up, and then there's just like 3 guys all hanging right. Hey, good to see you there. Hey.
Tom, another good year. Yep. Okay, let's do this.
but to an extent that also, what do we have to do? We have to be more, courteous to our fellow hunters. You have to be like, hey man, it's okay that we're all hunting in the same area. Like
Yeah.
if you're in here and I'm in here, either we're both doing something wrong or we're both doing something right.
Yeah.
So
So none of us are really big public land hunters, but when you get in a scenario like that, you get up in a tree, sun comes up, and you look over, you're like, is it just kind of you will sit there quietly knowing, or is it like you got to get out of my area?
I hope that we both see deer, right?
Right.
'Cause
And
we're
then,
either doing
may the
both.
best, may the best man win.
Right. It's just, I mean, like literally, you're usually hunting 150, 200 yards apart. Me and my buddy Haley did that once, and we walked in, and there's a guy like literally in the tree we were going for, and I was like, dang, but I'm not gonna like leave because I was like,
So you sit on a bucket at the base of his tree?
no, you do. He flashed us, and we were like, okay, we see you. And we moved off because he had the better spot because that's where we were going. So we just moved off, and we actually ended up having the deer come under us, and so we didn't actually get one. But after the hunt, it was pretty obvious. We just talked to each other. Just like, hey, this is we're hunting. Exchange numbers. Do whatever you got to do, and just be like, hey, we're obviously it's public land. Share the resource, share the opportunity, and just be courteous to each other. I mean, it's not like I had a private guy on the same piece come over and get all, pissy with me because I was scouting it was before rifle season, so I was trying to figure out if the deer were using the area or not. He was, well, you just scared off some deer and you shouldn't even be back here or blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, if you're hunt the same piece I am, I'm scouting. It's middle of the day.
We all pay taxes on this property.
It's like, we all bought the same licenses that paid to get this acquired or whatever. So but that's just, some people have a different mentality than, it seems like the saddle hunters, like myself, just generally we understand, like, hey, there's a good likelihood that, if anybody who is a decent hunter is hunting the same area, I'm probably going to run into them at some point. Oh, like a cold front drops, there's a good chance I'll see somebody out here today, and that's okay. We have to learn to share what we got here, or else, what kind of an environment is that for, hunting, the hunting community, hunting public, if we fight every time we see each other on the land.
I wish more people had that mindset, because I just hear wild stories out on public land. So the fact that you've at least got the mindset that you do of just got to be courteous to everybody. You got to make it work. Everybody's out here for the same goal, and the same goal is to spend time in the woods and go after game.
Well, I can tell you this. If you fight with each other trying to get the same deer, nobody's going to get the deer. If you join together, like as a tribe, and you say, hey, let's collectively try and hunt these deer, and you can all celebrate the same success no matter who it is, that is the accomplishment, right? That we killed the deer, not that it was me or you. It was that, collectively we were able to get it done on a specific deer or something like that.
That's a really interesting take, because that's traditionally how it's always been. We're all going to come together as a tribe and hunt this one animal. And when we get this, everybody celebrates and wins. It was
like a deer drive, right?
Yeah, it wasn't until
doesn't matter
recently.
Who gets it. Like, we're all working together, and we hope we get one.
Yeah, it's not until recent, maybe the last 200 years, 300 years of hunting, that it's been an individual sport where it's like, I am going to get this deer. This is going to be my deer, and like maybe I'm going to share it with my family. But outside of deer drives and whatnot, it's all this like single person sport where it's like, this is my deer. I'm going after it. Nobody else can have it. And it's like, if I don't get it, I don't celebrate. But in reality, it's like, if the deer gets ethically killed at the end of the day, woohoo. Like, good.
Yeah.
The right deer got taken. The one that I wanted, the one that we were going after, it got taken in a good way, and the neighbor shot it, and it's like, good job. Kind of sucks. I want it on my wall, but attaboy.
But what did you were a part of the process, which makes you part of, the solution or the understanding of how those deer operate that can ultimately put it on the ground.
It's like an assist in sports, whether it's basketball or football. It's like we need to praise that more.
Yes,
if you pass the ball to the guy who's going for the hoop and doing a layup,
if you are at work and that cold front's dropping and that deer is going to be there or whatever, and you are selfish enough to not say anything, you could tell somebody, hey, tell my brother, tell my buddy, hey, man, if you're not doing anything today, go hunt that stand or go hunt that setup.
Yeah.
Like, get that deer. We want that deer. Like,
this
that's what
public,
it's about.
Man. Private lane, game's off. Like, gloves off, man. You go sit in my stand,
story.
we have big problem.
We got beef.
Yeah, that's
seriously.
That's where we get
that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that.
Green pants involved.
Yeah, officer, he's like, this is private land. Figured out, no, shoot him, please.
All right, so what made you gravitate towards, I know you said that you kind of grew up around the deer camp, Orange Army mentality. What made you gravitate towards bow hunting versus that?
Getting into the season earlier when the weather is nicer and the deer activity is substantially higher. Like you were saying, Orange Army, what does the Orange Army do? Man, those deer activity just almost goes to nothing.
Within a day.
Yeah, goes almost to nothing.
That morning.
And at that, I'd gone a couple times and just never seen anything, or they were just fleeting deer, just running away for their lives. And you're like, man, this is just not natural deer behavior, And I start, you see on whether it's Outdoor Channel or, Pursuit Channel or whatever it was when you're growing up, everybody who was hunting with a bow, man, these deer were just everywhere, and the weather was mild and nice.
You're
and
in a
sunny.
t-shirt.
Right, exactly. And I was like, man, that just looks better. And you can start on October 1st. That gives you a month and a half to like be out in the woods. And, a funny story is my dad and my uncles would always tell these stories about how they see great bucks when they were squirrel hunting, when you could be bow hunting. And I was like, man, that's just funny. Why don't you just go bow hunting? And that was like part of the, like, well, hold on. Let's just, it was getting confident with a bow first that made me more amped to go do the bow hunting, the archery hunting. And then once you get into that and you just see the deer, they're out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's, nice and, it's 60 degrees. It's wonderful. You're like, oh, this is the kind of hunting I want to be doing.
Mhm.
You're telling everybody our secrets.
I know. Oh.
Well, I mean, a lot of those guys have transferred over from the gun hunting realm to the arrow gun hunting.
Well, I mean,
now.
Yeah.
going back, I know
Right.
everybody, telling secrets, but everybody talks about, oh, archery hunters are killing more deer or whatever. And it's like, man, look at the last 2 years with the harvest reporting. It's still
No.
like 70%
Yeah.
of the deer are being killed within a 1 week window during rifle season.
Yep,
It's like
it's
not
true.
even close, man. It's not even close. Like, what did we kill? Maybe 80, 90,000 deer within a month and a half. And then opening day, second day, like bam, 150,000 deer dead statewide.
It was like a deer every 14 seconds.
No.
Like point.
I was
0.8,
gonna say,
0.8
yeah,
seconds.
Yeah, 0.8
well, that's
seconds.
way
Yeah, that's
low.
Like, that's like Wisconsin numbers. No, it's like a deer every 0.8 seconds
It was-
on opening day.
Yeah, Chad Stewart is really good at summarizing that. But he was like, yeah, a deer was shot. Like we had 37,000 deer shot on opening day,
That's
and
awesome.
it was like 0.08 seconds. There was a deer, or, a trigger being pulled and a deer dying. And a
always
lot
said
of
how we
them were
wanna
little
see-
bucks.
This is our
A
kind of guy. We've always said we wanted to see a highlight reel of just just one after another.
You couldn't fit it into a big enough video.
Think about it from this perspective, though. If everything that we were just talking about pre-episode happens, a lot of those little bucks won't be dying.
It can happen if we all just show up. You gotta show up. You know how much representation Michigan deer hunters have at NRC meetings?
Well,
Yeah, tell
half
us
the
what's happening
problem
on
is
February
It's,
8th.
it's almost nothing, man. If we organized halfway legitimately and just showed up with 200 people, like that would be massive.
Well, tell us about it then.
Yeah,
What's going on?
February 8th,
The
right?
Natural Resource Commission, not the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, they do not make laws. They do not have the authority to make laws in the state of Michigan. The Natural Resource Commission is 7 appointed individuals by the governor who have the overall final say and overall authority to make laws regarding the harvest of wildlife and fish in this state. And there's 7 individuals and they make those laws. The DNR makes recommendations on regulation proposals to make, seasons and whatever bag limits and those things. And the NRC ultimately decides. It's not the DNR.
So the governor does not have a say in that?
The governor, no, that's what you want to do is you want to separate powers, right? You want to separate the governor. You want to separate the state from managing the wild resources, right? The wild animals. Like we want the hunters and the fishers to do that.
So what's the reason that we this whole $1 state thing hasn't been pursued before, or has it? And does it have to be a unanimous across the board for all 7?
It has to be a majority, 4 out of the 7.
Okay, so clearly it's been shot down in the past then, or maybe it's never been brought up and we didn't know.
It's almost like spearfishing. It just takes the right people to show up and say the right things to the right ears, right? That's all you have to do is make the right argument. And, and we are the generation that's now taking over, right? Like we're getting into our 20s and our 30s, and the people, our fathers and our grandfathers who are either gone or going out, they don't have any more say in it now. Now we're the guys who are saying, hey, this is how we want you to manage the resource. Do it. We don't want to have everybody shooting all the little bucks. We want to have APRs. We want to have a $1 state. We want to have, we want to narrow the opportunity for, harvest of bucks, and we want to expand the opportunity to shoot the does because our management system combination licenses that have been killing so many deer is only it's compacting, right? It's compounding over time, and then we've seen it year after year after year after year. What do we get? We get 65-70% buck harvest over does.
Yep.
And what do you see?
Absolutely.
You see just smaller and smaller. You just get worse and worse deer hunting year after year after year. And what do you see? You see more and more people going away from Michigan residents leaving the state to go to Ohio, go to Indiana, go to Illinois, go to Wisconsin, where they have at least 50-50 deer harvest, buck to doe ratios, Pennsylvania. And it's like, why aren't we changing? But, that's where we have to make our voices known that we don't support, this continued harvest and just unmanaged buck regulation that we have, and it's just getting ridiculous.
I think a lot of speculation of it too is like, well, they don't want to switch it because of the lost revenue, and I think that's BS too, because even if you were to switch it to a $1 state, you're going to start growing bigger, mature deer, which in return is then going to bring out-of-state non-residents to Michigan to hunt deer, and you're going to gain all of that funds back.
I don't see any lost revenue. I mean, if
I
a
see
combination license is a buck and a doe, who's going to not buy a combination license?
Everyone's going to still buy the combo.
Still buy a
if you
combo
need the
license.
meat, you'll shoot the
Doesn't-
doe, and then you can spend the rest of the season targeting whatever one buck you want to shoot.
Or you shoot a little buck. Who cares? To me, it's just like limit it to $1. Just call it what it is.
Okay,
Right?
so no APR. Just
I think if there is a region of the state, like we also have to remember there are two peninsulas in Michigan, right? There's an upper peninsula and a lower peninsula. We should definitely manage them based on the hunter preferences from the areas, right? So I think a lot of people in the upper peninsula would still like to shoot whatever they want, right? And then you have the upper northwest who want their APRs. And then there's where 80% of the deer are harvest down here, right?
I guess the APR doesn't necessarily matter if you're limited to $1 tag, because at the end of the day, they're going to wait for that bigger deer anyway, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be an APR.
They could, or they could just do whatever they want, right? Or,
Right.
Like my uncle, he'll blast the first deer he sees. He doesn't care, right?
Can't eat the antlers.
He's proud as hell of a little 3-inch scrub buck. He don't care, and that's fine. To me, it's like I don't care. But I think one thing that we could do, I mean, like I said, this is compounding over time, right? Like in 2016, I got $2. In 2019, I got $2, right? And I've some years I'm not as successful, and other years I'm just like, no, I didn't see a big enough buck. But you also have to take that into account, that compounding over time, over 10 years, 20 years,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Night
If
and
I
day.
can kill 2 deer a year, and some people are really good and they can, what happens? You are losing those bucks over time, and that could allow them to get bigger, or whatever the case is, or allow somebody else to get them, or whatever the case is. But compounding, that's what I think it is. When you start allowing people to harvest $2 and we have a super high hunter population compared to our neighbors, right? Like Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, they don't have the hunter base that we have. I think you just start seeing those numbers, like I said, compounding over time. Like you just can't get the number of decent or high quality bucks that you can get in Ohio or Indiana or those other states. Like my brother went down to Indiana, first day down in their shotgun season, and shot like a 160. A freak nasty buck that,
Oh my
we'd never
gosh.
see in Michigan, almost
Right.
never see. And then when I went to Ohio with the Latitude guys, Alec Chop shot up like a 170 on public land in Ohio, southeast Ohio. Like, okay, well, that's never going to happen in Michigan. Like, not the way it's currently, at least with the culture, like generally, or like with the combination tags, but that's just the way it is. So that's what we have to do as hunters now, is we have to go to these NRC meetings, talk to the commissioners and say, hey, I don't care what the DNR says about, well, it doesn't matter if, only 15% of hunters harvest, $2 in a year. Well, that's 20,000 bucks that are lost every year that we could have grow up every year. They could have another year on those heads, on their antlers, another year on their age class.
This is crazy. If we get us, him, Connor Goff, if we get like a majority of these guys we've had on the podcast in the same room as these guys, we might actually have some pull.
So this is the first time that I've had like a little bit of like a glint of vision or hope of, oh, we could do this, right? And all of a sudden my mind's starting to turn like, can you imagine the buck? Can you imagine how big they are? Just all the time, everywhere. And I'm like, oh, this could get interesting.
I mean, look at Indiana. They
Yep.
shot the Huff buck 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Can you imagine the size of our roadkill bucks we're gonna start picking up?
Oh, dude.
We're gonna be picking up 130s on the side of the road.
Look at that.
He's
going to be out to here.
Stud.
That's a Michigan 13 point right there, baby.
That's a stud.
That's Caddyshack.
Opening day
We
stuff.
pulled him off a golf course the other day.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. But I mean, Ohio had that state record. It's in question now, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But I mean, just the caliber of those
Yes,
deer.
it's
Like,
great.
You find those deer where? In like Novi, Livonia.
Washington.
Yeah, well, yeah, the places basically where you
all
can't
farmers
hunt.
that just
Yeah.
lock down.
Yeah, exactly.
Blocks
Or
at
like
a time.
They're around here too.
private property where they're protected. But
Yeah.
It's everybody's pet. The problem is I think enough people aren't talking about it, and this is where our generation I think is going to be the game changer.
we have all the tools to talk to each other.
Yep.
I mean, I think what we really need to do is we really need to put our heads together and play devil's advocate and really, find it out, right? And be like, okay, what is the absolute most we're going for, and what can we let slide, and those kind of things. You have to actually talk about it and like consider other people, right? You can't just be fully invested in your own, endeavors. But if you do that, I mean, that's really how you can work together to make real regulations change. Because I think if you just go in there saying me, slam your hand on the table and say
That
this
always
is
works.
that's always so
It
great,
works
right? They
great.
just tell you let me tell you how to do your job. But
Right.
that
People love that.
exactly. So I think if you go in, if you talk to within the community, right? And the last thing I know, I said like, let's get 200 people and go to the NRC and start chanting and yelling. Like, that's not great, but that's what MUCC is really good at, right? They take a lot of people and then they break it down into a system where you get 2 or 3 people at the top who represent everybody else. So you don't have a bunch of noise, right? Just a whole ton of noise.
Mob mentality.
Exactly.
It's the opposite. You want it to be a
Right.
board of people.
But I think
I was
The
trying
NRC
to J6 this thing. Just storm
Yeah.
in there,
oh,
put on the buffalo hat, paint my face, American flag. I'm going to be locked up in the DNR's office
Right.
for like
I
You're gonna
think
be
one of the
locked up in a
things
federal.
I think
Yeah, federal prison.
Federal prison.
show up.
walk out with the guy.
Just show them and talk to them. That's the funniest thing. Every person who is within the DNR, whether it's the fisheries or the wildlife or parks, whatever, they show up to these meetings every month. You can literally walk up to them, shake their hand, and just talk to them, and like get a better understanding where they're coming from, the issues they're dealing with, or maybe they're underfunded, or maybe they just whatever the case is. Right? You can actually talk to these people and just be like, oh, I didn't understand that. All I see is what I see, and I don't know what I don't know. So now that I'm here talking to you, I can far better understand exactly where you're coming from and why we haven't had the changes that we've had or whatever. So
This is so weird. You're like a rational human being and stuff.
crazy, right?
Dude,
I shoot fish with spears for fun, and then I eat them. Call me crazy.
dare me to walk into one of those meetings and say the word cougar.
Oh, dude, you would just like trapdoor. Caleb's gone. Where'd he go? We don't know. Didn't see him. Probably eaten by a cougar.
What do you
They wouldn't
mean?
tell. Oh,
We won't get too much down this rabbit trail. We've got that's Pandora's box opening. Reed just
there's
we'll-
cougars in Michigan.
Absolutely.
We'll send
Thank
you.
you.
We'll send you the link.
No, this is 100% verified now.
Oh, 100%.
But
It's been
here-
for years. But
why has only
In East
one
Lansing,
been
mid-Michigan.
confirmed in the Lower Peninsula?
oh,
when-
I can't.
When I have an inbox right now full of trail cam pictures and videos of cougars in
I mean,
the Lower Peninsula.
Mostly bobcat guys. Figure that out. But some cougars.
Yeah, that I don't know. And like I said, I don't know that, that it gets to every inbox at the DNR. Like, I don't think they're on some kind of big cougar hunt. Right? They're just like, yeah, sure. But if that's a video of a cougar attacking them, sure. But I think when they refer to like cougars in Michigan is like, do we have an established breeding population of cougars, or are we just getting cougars that are wandering through or coming from, Canada or something like that? That I don't know, right? I haven't talked to anybody within the DNR about that, but
You want to hear the craziest message I got?
let's hear it.
Okay, so this was the craziest story.
He's going to tell me anyways.
that. Yeah.
No.
out of all the messages we got, this one was from one of our listeners, which will remain unnamed, but he was a cattle farmer in the Lower Peninsula here, and he had two of his steers that had really big like lacerations on its back
Ooh.
from like cat claws. He said it's the only thing that it could have been. called the DNR, said, hey, I've got 2 steers out here that have obvious cat marks, way too big to be a bobcat, anything like that. Can you guys at least come out and, take a look, maybe set up cameras or something just to try to confirm this for us? And they said, yeah, no, this is, it's not worth the time.
I'm not shocked.
So 2 or 3 weeks later, he had 2 dead cows. Those cows ended up passing, and he's like, this is my livelihood, so I'm going to take matters into my own hands. So he goes out and thermals, waits, shoots the cougar. Ooh. He finds that he shoots the cougar, calls the DNR and says, well, I now have a carcass here. Come get it. And they show up, and they take the cougar, they take the cows, they take the cell phones, the cameras, the weapon, they take everything and vanish.
Dang.
So that's the kind of stuff where I'm like,
Dude, that's law enforcement.
Okay, little
though.
sketchy.
So to that guy, like, first of all, I am so sorry. That is really tough to lose everything on something like that. That's like I'm surprised he didn't build a Killdozer. Wow, that's 2 really brutal references in one podcast. J6 and Killdozer. Where are we going next? Epstein's List.
Yikes.
DNR is on it.
John's never coming back. He's like, I was trapped in a 10 by 10 hole with some lunatics.
It's like, man, these red pill mother effers.
We're gonna have no eye contact when we show up to that meeting in February. He's
I
just
never
gonna be like,
said
I don't know
I've never
met
I don't
those
know
guys.
these guys. I don't even know what I was going to say. Oh, when you have a situation like that, like, I feel for this guy because he just got totally like raked over the coals for something that he did that was probably the right call. But can I even mention the 3S rule? Can that be my third hot button? Like, if you're going to be in a situation like that, like, it's like wolves in northern Michigan. Like, everybody knows 3 S's. Shoot, shovel, shut up. Like, don't, if you have a problem, if you have a problem, it is a problem.
Well, I think he had, if the story is true, I'm sure he just had a bone to pick where it was like he knew there was a problem. He tried to get them to intervene and help with the problem. They wouldn't do it, so he took matters into his own hands. And it's like it was more of a "I'll show you" mentality, which never works out.
Now he owns a Komatsu D78.
Okay. Wow, we just got off on a great tangent as we always do. So,
hey man, people are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Let's talk about what's sitting next to me here.
Absolutely.
Because
the exciting part.
This man in the PodBunker with us is single-handedly responsible for legalizing spearfishing in the Great Lakes.
Underwater spearfishing.
Underwater spearfishing
Yes.
in the Great Lakes.
Oh, yes. I was like, what is overwater spearfishing?
Through the ice.
Yeah.
Hand-felled spear from a boat, stuff like that. I got to make the distinction. It's kind of all, lumped into the same general term.
Spiky things and fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Stabbing things with spiky things.
That's a huge accomplishment. So, I commend you for that. So let's start from the beginning. Where did the idea come from? Or actually, tell us about the spear guns first.
Absolutely.
Walk us through how these all work. Bring them into the camera.
Well, this is my special lady. I call her Linda.
God, those things are sweet,
Linda,
man.
Tammy.
So this is a
Sharon.
if you reference the colors here, you'll see that I have a diver down flag handle. This is a 42-inch from butt to the end right here. This is called a fish stick spear gun. So my buddy Charlie Hammond out of Homosassa, Florida, makes these in his barn. And he has been kind enough to donate. He actually donated that one to the National Freshwater Spearfishing Association's tournament in,
Nice.
I think it was in Utah on Lake Powell. And when I got that one, I loved it so much, and I was shooting all these fish with it. And he was like, "Dude," he's like, "let me make you like a personal one." And he's like, so he made me this one. You can see Fisheries Order 21922, which is the order that I got passed. So, and that permitted. What do we got? Lake trout. No, I'm sorry. Was that? Yeah, walleye, lake trout, and northern pike to be harvested. So we put those, etched those in on the bottom for me, and then
Oh, that's super cool.
he put my Instagram handle right there, and then his name right there. So this is
That's like uber custom.
super
Yeah,
custom.
that thing's sweet.
And for the quality of the gun, like this is when I tell people, like, get a a wood gun versus a metal gun. This is like a baseball bat. I could smash a tree with this and it wouldn't like barely dent. He actually got one this year. He actually got it caught in the prop of his motor, and the motor broke it, like literally chipped off a big piece. And he literally could just wood glue it together, put it brand new, almost crazy. Like things you can't do with a metal gun. So here, if you want to go ahead and pass it.
Yeah. Showsies and tellsies.
So for people who don't know what the hell this thing is, explain to them how it works.
Okay. Say less. No. So
he goes, look, I put the blunt tip on this one so I can
Right.
shoot you and see how it feels.
So it's pretty simple, man. You have your trigger mech right here, right? That's like 90% of the gun right there. This is the butt. You're going to put this right in your chest. This is your line guard that's going to hold your line. Here's your spear shaft. Sticks right into there. Pull that, releases. You have your bands right here. So these are what they call shark fins. So that's where you're going to load each one of these bands onto those shark fins, and that's like the propulsion.
What's the poundage? Is that a thing?
I have no idea. So they don't really go in poundage. They go in band IDs, right? Or the diameters of the bands, and the thicker the diameter, the harder it is to pull back, the more power you get. But with that, this is something Charlie taught me. It's just like tuning an arrow, right? Like if you have too much poundage on your bow, you can get your shaft to, what do they call it? Paradox.
Parallax. Nope.
You mean where it flexes?
Where it flexes,
yeah,
exactly, right?
As
So-
it's coming out.
Yeah, so that the same thing can happen with a spear shaft. So it's all about finding the right ID bands for the spear shaft, right? So you get a true spear flight, I guess.
So every ID band has a different tension.
Exactly, different diameters.
Got
and
it.
so on and so forth. And you can increase the number of bands and so on. And like a longer gun, right? So these are like very mid. He calls these mid reefs. So very, very small, very easy to handle in rocks and stuff like that. But you can get ones that are 6-7 feet long.
Really?
And so yeah, so when it comes to loading those, you need a very loose band because you have to literally grab the band first and then pull it back to here and then reset and then load it. So
for a gun like that, like a bigger one, are those more for like saltwater bigger fish? And
Yes.
these are more for like freshwater small fish.
not necessarily freshwater. I use these in saltwater.
Okay.
But it's usually what we don't have in freshwater is super thick fish like tuna or wahoo or like marlin and stuff like that.
Okay.
So those fish require higher poundage just to penetrate them better, to get a better hit on them. Because, if this flopper doesn't get through, that can pull out.
Fish off.
Yeah, exactly. And that's no good. So, and you can see here, right? So
That's a big flopper.
yeah. So once
Is that like the technical term? Flopper?
yep,
Oh.
exactly. So tuning your flopper is also really important too, because you see this, if it goes flat, it can also pull back through the fish.
You don't want your flopper to be too floppy.
No, it's got to be stiff when it's up.
It's got to be stiff when you need
tune
it.
the flopper.
You got to tune the flopper. That's important though, because this is absolutely happening.
Do you tune it just by like pinching the sides?
Exactly. You
okay.
pinch the side so when it's out, it's out. It doesn't close, because if it closes, like let's say you shoot in the ground, right? You shoot in the ground and the mud covers this.
Oh, it's bad days.
It's bad days and it can just pull right back out. So you go to pull that fish and it just pulls out and the fish can swim right away.
Yep.
Sometimes you kill it, sometimes you don't. But that's like, you learn this stuff as you spearfish more, and you're like, okay, I have
a very, very limited spearfishing career. Like I have a
most people, especially if you're from the Midwest, your spearfishing is almost zero.
I have.
Non-existent.
I do, and like I have before. But I mean, it's just I got a little spear gun like this that I go like wade through the reeds and like swim through like real small stuff. It's
there you
awesome.
go. What do you
But-
shoot? Do you shoot like carp and stuff?
Yeah, carp,
Yeah.
dogfish, suckers,
Yep.
drumfish.
Jumps. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the one thing with me. We talked about this a little bit before you showed up, but the reason I love what you did is there's something primal about going after something, some kind of game, whether it's deer, fish, and then having a meal, sharing a meal, cooking it, utilizing that resource. And that's why bow fishing is cool to a certain extent if it's an invasive species that you have to take out of the water. That's like killing the environment. But to see videos of these guys shooting 800-900 fish and loading the boat up and then using them as compost and just dumping them, to me it's a little tainted. So when we first came across your page and I started looking into all this stuff, I'm like, holy smokes, this guy's shooting walleye, they're shooting game fish that then you're taking back and cooking. It's like a copy and paste version of what guys are doing in saltwater in Hawaii and in the oceans and all over the world, and you're bringing it to Michigan, which is freaking awesome.
So I have something to say about bow fishing. Exactly what you said. There's a PR problem with spearfishing and bow fishing, and it's that people do what? They shoot fish, kill them, and they dispose of them, right? They don't eat their fish, right? Now, this is a tiny point that I like to make. Have you guys ever been salmon fishing in the rivers?
Oh, yeah.
We went fishing for them. You ever seen the amount of destruction done in those streams and those rivers? All the weights, the lines, the hooks, the beer cans, all that.
Great point.
What would be easier if you just said, here, take a bow and arrow. You can see them right there. Shoot 2 and leave.
It's a really valid point.
Right? You get your 2 fish and you don't do anything else. You get 2 fish, you pull them right out and you leave. Gone.
There's no snagging.
There's no snagging because
no
everybody's
everywhere.
snagging. It's all snagging, right? You're really a skilled snagger or you're not, right?
You can either snag them out or you can't.
I've never seen anybody who snagged a fish in a dorsal fin or the tail fin like throw that fish back. Like they don't.
Well,
they just,
it was gonna die. So
right, whatever.
I know it's wrong, but
it's a sport fish. It's a put take fishery, right? We pay for those fish to be in these lakes and those streams. Like, why not have people? It is, as far as it goes, to me, the natural reproduction of salmon in the Great Lakes is like less than 5%.
Really?
Yeah, it's like so small. Like 95% of the fish is all hatchery fish.
It's all in rivers. We see it right here in Lansing, the dams and stuff. If you go out there in April, the amount of salmon that are trying to jump over these dams, it's crazy.
It's all hatchery fish, right?
Yep.
Those are all fish that they go to the weirs, they take them in, they milt them, and then they throw them. Actually, some places, if you ever see them, they bring literal semi trucks, and all those weir fish, they'll go right to market.
Wow.
Yep. And it's like every fish that we can take out from a recreational standpoint is a win, right? And to me, I don't want to say I'm like that's the next thing, but like I definitely think there's room for bow fishing salmon in the rivers and the creeks.
This guy's cool.
Okay, so where did the idea of this come from? Where did it start? Where did you get the bug? Why?
Summer 2018, my brother, Michigan Spearfishing Association, which I am now the president of, host a tournament, right? So they created the Michigan Spearfishing Association. Aaron Dahlman and Peter Rick created it in 2016 for the exact purpose of changing the regulations. They hosted a tournament in 2018. My brother went to it, and he posted some pictures on Facebook. And at this time, I just moved back from California, and I was a lifeguard for 6 years. I was a competitive swimmer, and so I was very comfortable in the water. Loved diving. Went out to Petoskey and would dive out there just on the pier heads and stuff, just for fun.
Pause. Did you find the underwater crucifix?
Yes, I have absolute videos. Yep.
There's a what?
Spooky.
There's an underwater crucifix. A diver died and they buried. So
super spooky.
Different story. There was I think it was an Italian family. They were out there. Their son died, and they tried to have this like marble crucifix delivered from Italy, and it got damaged in transit. And so they didn't want it. And so it was stuck in like limbo land for a long time. And this dive shop was actually able to get their hands on it. And when they did, they sank it as a memorial for some fallen divers, I guess.
There are days.
It's like big.
It's huge. It's life size. Yeah,
there are days when the ice is clear that you can go out and you can look down and you can see it. But it's like 40 feet
actually,
down.
once a year, they have a viewing day where they'll actually cut a hole in the ice over it, and you can actually walk out there and
crazy.
look at it. Yeah.
Wow.
So I've swam and I got videos of me swimming right next to it.
Okay, 2 points. One, I don't know how I've never heard of this. Two, I like how they accurately depicted Jesus as shredded.
Yes.
He was a carpenter, and like carpenters back then, like used stone a lot. You cannot tell me Jesus wasn't ripped.
The only reason I knew that is so we both grew up in the going to Charlevoix on the weekends.
Okay, yeah.
So, and this half the reason when we started hearing about the spearfishing stuff is we got pumped because right off of the Lake Charlevoix lighthouse there,
don't spot burn yourself.
No, that's true. In an undisclosed location,
Next to a lighthouse, which Michigan has a lot of.
it's like there's like 12 to 15 feet of just crystal clear water. Like you can see the clarity is just ridiculous. So that's where I'm like, hey, we're gonna make this happen.
But there are no fish there.
None. Zero.
Never seen
Zilch.
a fish there in my life.
Never seen a
Like
fish.
Lake Charlevoix, no fish in it.
Okay, so your brother, you came back from California.
Yep.
All of that's kind of where it all
Yep.
sparked.
So, like I said, I've been, free diving and just swimming around, enjoying the resource, I guess, the Great Lakes. And so I hit him up and I was like, dude, you went spearfishing? I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I want to try that. Like, can you take me? So he hit up his buddy James Stack, who took him out, and he's like, hey, John wants to go. It's like end of August. We go out towards Muskegon and we go for the first time. And I mean, it was just, drum, suckers, carp, catfish, those kind of things you could shoot. And we went out there and it was just like you said, just one side of the jetty was crystal clear. The other side was a little bit dirtier, but just incredible. I just swimming around. I seen like a 40-inch pike swam right up to me. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I was like instantly hooked. Instantly. I was like, okay, I'll do this for the rest of my life. And I was like, all right. So I got all this gear and like it was wintertime, like just like it is. I got all the gear and I was just like, man, I fish just like anybody else. I've been fishing, walleye fishing, pike fishing, bass fishing, whatever. Why can't I shoot them with a spear gun? What's the difference? So I was like, how do you change the law in Michigan?
That's the part that everybody misses right
Yeah,
there.
I was like,
how do you do it?
I was like, how do you do it? And it was just like, oh, the Natural Resource Commission has meetings once a month at these locations. Here's the secretary. Send her your information, what you'd like to talk about, and she'll give you a slot for public testimony.
no way.
That's it. I messaged her and said, hey, this is what I want to, and she's like, here's 5 minutes on whatever it was, April 14th or something like that, April 16th. And I was like, wow, okay. Well, I guess I got to start typing up like a testimony and like why I want to do this or whatever. So I was like, I started talking to Aaron Dahlman and James and everybody who I had met in like the last 6 months. And I was like, well, what are, I started like researching. I was like, well, what are like some good points or good articles or, whatever. So I just kind of put it all together and I was just like, man, the winters here, you can't dive during the winter. The water's too cold. Water's too dirty. It takes a lot of physical exertion. You're swimming a lot. You have to be able to dive. All these different reasons, right? Whatever it was. And I was like, kind of going back to the PR point of things. Why are we promoting or permitting methods of harvest that are disposing of fish? You're just killing and getting rid of fish. That doesn't make much sense. Like, why is that okay? But if I see a walleye, I can't kill it. Like, okay. And so I just made this little 3-page testimony, went to the meeting with my buddy Reed, who had, oddly enough, grown up in Boyne. I think we're spending summers in Boyne, and he was a big, I would love to go spearfishing, blah, 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 blah. So we went, did our testimony. And the dumbest thing we ever could have done was walk out as soon as we got done talking. Went right out the door like, okay, we said our piece, now we're gone.
It's like a courtroom session.
Yeah,
It's just like,
see ya. Walked in, said our piece, got our papers together, and walked out about 20 seconds later. On the way out, a guy comes running out of the doors when we, literally backing up in the truck. He comes running out, waving at us. He's like, hey, where are you guys going? And I was like, well, home, I guess. He's like, you're not going to stay and talk to everybody? And I was like, well, I got to go. Oh, we're going home. And he was like, well, here's my card. He's some higher up at MUCC. And then
What is MUCC?
Michigan United Conservation Clubs. So they're like the overall, like where all clubs come together, right? So then Patrick Hogan, who was a board, I believe he's on the board of directors for MUCC, reaches out to me on Facebook, and then Commissioner John Walters calls me after the meeting. He's like, dude, where did you go? Why did you leave? He's like, you just said all this stuff and you just left. You didn't even get to talk to anybody. And I was like, well, I'd never done this before, man. I had no idea.
I'm that confident it's going to work.
Right. I was just like, I said my piece, whatever. And he was like, no, I agree 100%. He's like, if you can look at a fish and you can tell the size and the species of it, it doesn't matter how you shoot it. He's like, you should be able to have it. He's like, you bought a license just like everybody else. Like, why does it matter? And I was like, you're telling me. And he was like, that's when he was like, I'm going to give you all of Chief Dexter's information. He's like, here's his secretary, here's his number, here's his email, here's everybody's information. You get in contact with him and you get a meeting set up no matter what. I was like, yes, sir. And that's exactly what I did. I emailed him and his secretary, and I think it was June 26th or something like that. And he was like, I got an opening there. We all come in. It was me, my brother Nathan, and James. And we were actually going up to do the Michigan Spearfishing tournament in Alpena. And so we were on our way up. We stopped in, did the meeting, told them what we're all about, showed them videos, whatever, talked with them. And they were like, from the get-go, they're like, this is not a biological concern. Like, not even close. They're like, you follow the bag and size limits, it doesn't matter. But there's a lot of other people out there that, might be scared of this or whatever. So they're like, we'll go talk to some people and we'll come back and get in contact with you. All right, sounds good. So send them pictures, sending them updates. While this is going on, I'm calling Utah. I'm calling Wisconsin. I'm calling North and South Dakota. And I'm talking to their fisheries directors and stuff like that. And I'm saying, hey, why do you guys permit freshwater spearfishing? And this is another thing I said. I was like, why is it that inland states with far less freshwater than especially Michigan, right? We have the Great Lakes, right? Like who can rival that? But why are they permitting people to shoot pike and walleye and bass with spear guns? Like, why aren't we in that category of people that you can do it? And I think that maybe just resonated with everybody, but they came back and they're like, what would you like to see? And I was like, this is what I would like to see.
This is my proposal.
This is my proposal. And I was like, well, I mean, literally, he said, write up what you want the order to look like and then give it to us. So that's where I went to every state and I said, what do you guys do? I was like, what are your boundaries for like beaches and docks and access points and egress points and water channels and intake tubes and all those kind of things? And I was like, okay, what is everything? And these are all things that Michigan didn't have. Like, we had nothing.
Wow.
We had zero. We had no boundaries, no safety protocol, nothing. It was just like, you can go for these fish any time of day, any time of year, on any body of water that's not inland designated trout lakes and trout streams. That was it. Like, Wild West, right?
Wow.
And so that was like another thing. I was like, guys, we are kind of like just Wild Westing out here. You
were
know?
the pioneers.
Right. So I was like,
let's go.
Hey, like we can add these safety regulations in. And then at the same time, we can also add some better eating fish because, the whole point, like going back to that PR thing, I'm like, why are we permitting people to kill fish if they're not going to generally utilize them? I was like, you should promote fishing methods that are consumptive based, right? Like, don't do it if you're not going to eat the fish. But if you want me to shoot a couple carp while I'm out there, I can do that. No problem. Whatever. Get rid of some invasives, right? Everybody likes to say that. So
justification.
Whatever, right? Yeah. Whatever
Right.
Whatever the justification is, right? So I was like, I did that, and then they were like, okay, sounds good to us. They're like, looks good. We'll just we got the warm, they call them warm and cold water resource steering committees. So those are what they call stakeholder groups that meet every year, and the DNR will say, hey, we have these proposals that we are looking to recommend to the Natural Resource Commission. What's everybody's feedback? And then we'll all, in a video chat. Well, they say it's in person, but we did video chat because it was COVID. It was 2020.
I don't remember.
Yeah, so I was like,
geez, what a nightmare to try to go through all of this during that.
it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Shooting fish is essential. Let me do this.
Right. See, some people are so simple, and then other people are like, oh my God, somebody did it and it was illegal, and therefore nobody should ever be allowed to do it ever.
What's the difference between the warm and the cold water?
Mostly
Degrees.
streams.
Okay, so
Streams.
rivers,
Rivers,
streams,
trout, mostly
versus
trout
lakes.
streams. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
About 40.
Right.
Give or take.
It's like, shut up.
But yeah, that's like your trout fisherman, your fly fisherman, and then everybody else is like your trollers, your jiggers, and everybody else.
Put the
So-
hard R on that one, didn't you?
Oh, don't tell anybody.
It's number 3.
Don't talk to salmon fishers about jiggers. They
You're
they
on
can't
a-
stand them, man.
Reed, you're on an absolute roll tonight. You're on a roll,
He's
my guy.
he's 3 root beers deep.
I might need to cut him off here soon.
Don't say this is why I can't drink. Dude, this podcast would be shut down if I had alcohol.
But yeah, so those are the, you sit there and then they say they basically give your proposal up and they say, here you go. Michigan Out of Doors, Jordan Brown, shout out to Jordan Brown. He came on back during COVID and to do a whole episode with me to talk about spearfishing. And when he did that, that was literally Seth Herbst, who is he's like the regulatory's unit affairs manager. He was the one who he clipped that video, like a 5-minute clip from that video, and that's what he showed to everybody every time he presented like that regulation change. Like, this is what spearfishing is, because nobody knew what it was. And Jordan made it look like in the perfect light, right? He was just like, oh, even though you go, you don't sometimes get everything, blah blah blah, right? And the video he chose to put in there and just the way he composed it was excellent.
Well, I hadn't heard of spearfishing. I mean, is a gray area. Like, if before we went to Hawaii recently, and I was telling you when you came up, we did the spearfishing with the prongs and the shaft ones, and that got me hooked. Just that. And so I can't imagine doing it with guns. I mean, I was floating next to sea turtles and just going after little panfish and stuff, like nothing even that big.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine doing a walleye. But prior to that, if somebody were to say, hey, what's spearfishing? The only thing I would have ever pictured is these people in the tide pools waiting, they stand there and they wait for the fish to come up around their feet, and then they spear them and you see them pull it up. Like, that's what I pictured. I never pictured that. Either that or Moby Dick, like one of those two.
Yeah.
So the fact that you created that platform and they gave you that exposure to be able to show people, it's really not what you think it is.
Well, yeah, I guess it was just enlightening, right? Because the Midwest, I mean, like when you think of like getting in the freezing cold water,
it's just like surfing.
Yeah,
it's like
right?
surfing Lake
yeah,
Michigan.
you crazy
like,
people, right? Yeah, right. And like, no. So yeah, I was just, like I said, Jordan was, kind enough to come out and do the episode because I'd been getting a lot of really cool video of fish swimming around me, and so when I was showing him that, was just a side of the fishing world that he, hadn't really been exposed to. And I guess if I never would have taken a GoPro, probably never would have turned out as good as it did. But I guess I was just one of the few people who was just taking video and posting it, and people were like, wow, this is pretty actually cool. Like, this is like, you have a school of 10 walleyes swimming around you. You're like, that's pretty dope.
That's wild.
Like,
no one ever sees walleye either.
Well, you see them on a graph.
Right.
They're just little marks. But then you drop down on there, they all swim around you, and you just sit there and you go, give them the little spirit fingers, and they
What's the spirit fingers?
Spirit fingers, man. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing on the planet, man.
Tell us about spirit fingers.
You know how
I had this on my notes.
You know how like when you're working a jerk bait or like you just wanted to get it to like look like you're
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. And they will. I swear to God, a key and
I saw that in Crocodile Dundee.
No.
You just tame the animals.
You just give them the old 1-2 flickaroo. And
1-2 flickaroo.
Flickaroo. Just sit there and they draw right into that. They're like, what the frick is that?
1-2.
I tell you what,
I'm
it
gonna do a
works.
vibe check. Hold
Let
on.
me check his vibe.
Bad vibes. There's a spirit through me.
I actually have a perfect video for that where 3 of them come in and they look at me, and then I like just shift too much and they all just swim away really fast. I was like, that audio would go perfect for that video.
Dub it.
I'm making it happen now. I'm gonna have to put this over it though. Double dub.
Okay, so what was that moment? What was the moment like when that actually got passed? What was the process? Like, you did your presentation to them.
Yep.
They came out. You did all this work with the other states. You put your proposal together. You gave your proposal to them. What was that timeline like before something actually went through?
So it was 2019. Had my first interaction with an NRC and the DNR. February 2020 had a second visit with the DNR where they said write it up. I think it was the Warm Water Resource Steering Committee was in May, and they were like, have it ready in May.
When you say write it up, are you like
I
just
took
a nice
the actual
little sticky
order.
note?
No.
Okay.
Here, actually, right now, I brought receipts.
You brought a whole
Whoa.
whoa portfolio.
Bunch of pictures with sexy dressed men on beaches. Hunter, see you looking. Not me.
Don't call me out like
So
that.
this is the original order
I
I
see.
had written up.
This is like bunker history.
Yeah,
We have a law,
this is
I
the
think.
original. What I wanted. Originally.
Wait, this is pretty much what you would see like on Michigan.gov if you were to go read something. Like this is
That's I literally.
Is it a form online that you fill out?
No,
I shout you-
I literally stole it.
I shout
I plagiarized it.
I didn't plagiarize. I took it. Well, what you'll notice is there's none of like the official like signatures of the governor or the director
ooh,
of the DNR.
ooh.
So that's
Exceptions, inland waters.
not relating to us.
Frick. I was going
But
to see
basically,
if Lake Charlevoix was on this.
If you look in there is one exception for perch spearing through the ice on Lake St. Clair. You can do that. If you didn't know that,
I did not know that. No.
yes, you can do that. But that's Dark House.
Okay.
But
See
looking
that.
on the
This
front
is
part, you'll
awesome.
see the season. You'll see that Lake Superior was on there.
Dark House. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
What is Dark House?
Dark House is through the ice, like what you see for sturgeon spearing.
You misspelled fisheries.
I did not.
I'm kidding.
It was like that when I copy and pasted it. But so what happened basically is when I presented that to them, from 2019 to 2022 when they passed it, or 2021 when they passed it, they got rid of Lake Superior. And that's when they added in like the reporting requirements. They added in, what else did they add in there? Oh, they put in a 3-year sunset clause. So
What's this 3-year sunset
so
clause?
3 years is after 3 years. So from 2022 to 2025, it would end. It would be null and void. It would go back to what it was, so that they could evaluate the data that was collected from the reporting requirements, and then they can make a decision on whether they want to continue it, expand it, or whatnot.
So what I'm hearing is we need to blow the lid off this thing to where there's enough people spearfishing and reporting that data to keep it alive.
No, I'm way ahead of you, sir. My good sir.
That's what we like to hear.
We are in
They
the very final
prepared.
stages of preparing the order for this year to go into effect for 2025, which salmon will be included.
Whoa. Is this public knowledge?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I talked about it on Make Avery a couple weeks ago. So right here, there you go. So this is a summary of the underwater spearfishing program data fulfilled per Commissioner Kozad on August 31st of 2022, where you can see all the reported spots that everybody went to.
That's awesome.
You guys want to hear some crazy things?
Yes.
Yeah, hit us.
The total underwater spearfishing reported harvest for 2022 fishing season is 975 fish, stemming from 418 trips by 147 unique underwater spearfishing anglers.
147 dudes.
That's it.
Wow.
And a couple chicks in there.
Wow.
Below is the breakdown of the harvest for the 3 species that were approved for expanded harvest opportunities for Fisheries Order 21922. Of the 147 people who went and harvested fish, that's people who harvested fish, right?
Okay, so not counting the people who went out for days and days and days.
Yeah,
and
didn't get anything. How many walleye do you think the 147 people harvested from Lake Huron and Lake Michigan?
You mean out of that 900 fish?
Out of
how many
these,
were walleyes?
795 fish, yeah.
Walleye were 160.
Oh, I'm going to guess higher than that.
I was going to say,
That's a good guess. Yeah, you're being very modest.
like, you said 700 something?
There were 795 fish by 147 anglers.
669.
And how many species?
How many species are available?
Yeah.
So these are the 3 new fish. So of these totals, you say that are 313 fish were non-game fish. So doing that math quickly is like 480 some fish were non-game fish.
Okay. I'm going 236.
Okay. 301 walleye.
Wow.
Wow.
So the majority of game fish were walleye.
Almost all of them.
What are the other game fish species?
Northern pike, we had 11, and lake trout allegedly 1. Nobody ever seen it. It was allegedly harvested in April. Allegedly, because I think
There was no pictures or anything.
nothing. That's what I mean. As
Yeah,
besides
it's a little
reporting,
TJ Flag would
I
say
think
you
somebody
have
was
to
saying,
have it.
I got it. Yeah. I'm a
Cast
pick me.
a
I'm a
cat.
pick me fisherman.
That really
Yeah.
that pumps me up because walleye is so good. Walleye is one of the best
And they're
freshwater fish.
so abundant. So abundant. So this is the thing too, right? So I think here's the real number I think that matters. Lake Huron, right? 244 of them were from Lake Huron.
Out of the 3?
Out of the 301.
What?
So almost all of them.
That's
So-
surprising to me.
Do you know why?
I mean, it is a big.
Because, well, here's the difference, right? From here to here is open on Lake Huron. From here down was Lake Michigan.
Tell us about the boundaries. Like, why did you establish and pick those boundaries?
Consent decree. I think it's the 1836 consent decree with the tribes and the federal government and the state of Michigan, or the Department of Natural Resources now. It basically goes from here, from Grand Haven to Alpena, up to whatever lake or whatever river it is. I forget. Chocolate River, back down is the consent decree area where tribes operate out of, right? The little river band of Indians, Chippewa Indians, and then the Sioux tribe up in the Upper Peninsula. So they were renegotiating that consent decree that added all those miles or feet of gillnet in those consent decree waters. So when they were renegotiating that decree, if we wanted to go into those tribal waters,
You had to be blessed by a shaman.
we had to, well, it basically brought in their approval, which anything being new added in, it was like not cool. So it was like, hey, if you want this, stay out of their waters and you can have it for the time being until the consent decree is finished. And then when it's finished,
This really is the wild, wild west.
This is
It's underwater cowboys and
Yeah.
Indians.
It
Underwater cowboys and Indians.
Be like, yes, you may hunt these lands, but do not go.
Do not cross our
Do not go where the Indians are.
So my question is, Charlevoix.
Tribal waters.
So
For now, it's out. So now that this data has been collected, right, and that we can clearly see that there is no significant pressure or harvest from underwater spearfishing, that is what we're changing this year. Will be Lake Superior, the rest of Lake Michigan, the rest of Lake Huron, and hopefully St. Mary's River connecting waters. And then we're going to add salmon, and I hopefully can get nighttime spearfishing added back on.
Ooh,
That'd be
spooky.
sweet. That'd be awesome.
I don't know. Yeah.
You wouldn't like that?
Dude,
It's not for everybody.
Diving underwater at night
It's
give you
not.
the
Yeah, but it's fresh
heebie.
water, though.
Yeah, still the
It-
heebie
bull shark.
jeebies.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
By your hands, brother.
Yeah.
By your hands.
Okay, so what you're saying is hopefully by summer of this year.
No,
Okay.
next year,
So
2025.
summer of next year we could be suited up, ready to go in right outside of Lake Charlevoix.
Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
In Lake Michigan,
Yeah.
but Charlevoix.
You're still permitted to go in the lakes, just not for the game fish.
Where's that line drawn? So if like you take Charlevoix down to like
Wherever the
Traverse
coastline
City,
is, wherever the coastline is, follow the coastline.
Now, does this end in Ohio and Wisconsin? And like, you're not.
No boundary waters. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
100.
it's wherever the line is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Which-
I don't know what the hell you'd be doing out in the middle of Lake Michigan.
Well,
Boundary
shooting
waters.
over into Wisconsin.
Yeah, like I don't know. Right?
wait, explain the coastline thing to me.
So coastline is wherever the beach is.
Yeah.
That's where the line is.
That's where you can
Yes.
spearfish
For game fish.
for game fish. So technically, you said the Charlevoix area is tribal waters.
So currently, right now, that's the
But under the renegotiation,
So
you'll be able
here's-
to hunt all of it.
this is
Hunt?
what people, yeah, it is
Okay.
hunting, right? You can call it hunting. What I mean by that is when you go into tribal waters, you're restricted to the original order, which says you can hunt these fish right here, your bowfin, your bullhead, your burbot, your carp, drum.
You hunt burbot?
Yeah.
Sick.
Whitefish too.
Can you really?
Yeah. I got some this back September.
The whitefish run like crazy up by Charlevoix.
Yeah, we get.
Really?
I caught my
gosh.
first burbot on Charlevoix last year.
There's a whole season where guys just line.
Tell me later. I don't want you to burn my spot here. I just got a new spot.
There's no fish in Charlevoix.
There is none. I haven't caught one in years.
Nothing.
Like I saw a minnow there 13 years ago.
Let's edit that out.
Don't worry. We only have 35 people listening to this
Probably
podcast.
just
All right. Well, that makes it better. But yeah, so the when I say the boundary waters only apply to the new species. They don't apply, like I said, open all year, open on all waters.
Get them, boys.
Yeah, for these fish. Moving down here for underwater spearfishing, then those restrictions are put on you. So when you start looking for lake trout, walleye, and pike, and you want to harvest them, now you're bound by the consent decree waters, the tribal waters.
This is a spider web.
Gotcha.
No, that makes sense. Okay. Wow.
So once that is lifted, once we can now move into those areas next year, right, 2025. So the objective is to get it passed, and whether it's September or October of this year, then it'll be implemented April 1st of 2025.
So you know what's fascinating about this? I'm sorry. In 2018, you go spearfishing for the first time. 2019, you buy the equipment, you do it, and in 2020, you're writing bills for it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like hook, line, and sinker, you're all in. You're like, yep, I'm going to be the guy. Like I'm Mr. Spearfishing. And
I guess. It sounds weird. Like I said, I just went up and talked to the Natural Resource Commission and ran out of there.
Did you know what you were doing? Like, did you feel like all of a sudden you're going to make this statewide
No,
shift?
I thought it was going to end at that first meeting. I never thought.
The next thing you know, you're making changes in the government.
Well, people called me and they said, this is blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, like I said, you're there like, all right, go for it.
The next thing you know, he's in a bunker doing a podcast about it.
He's like, I just wanted to shoot some fish, man. I was hungry.
Right. I just wanted to eat some fish, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I go out in the Detroit River, like any other person in the Midwest or like in the southeast part of Michigan, and you can catch walleye like there. It's like a joke, man. It's just like, you just do this.
Yep.
And there's so many, like millions and millions. Yeah, right. Spear fingers.
1-2 flickaroo, baby.
And like, that's okay. But
Do you have shirts that say spear fingers?
maybe you guys can make them. I have no swag.
We're gonna set up a drop shipping web by the end of this evening. We're gonna get you all set up. We have a website.
We need to have the
merch shop
with 2 fingers. Just
Actually,
that's a sick little t-shirt
Whoa.
design.
right.
Yeah, bleep that out.
You're giving away all the good ideas.
Talk
here.
about burning spots or burning shirts.
Right, yeah. Too many
This
ideas.
is turning into an incubator down here.
This is what happens when I get sleep boys.
Okay, so for a little bit of clarity, if people are confused, because that last 10 there's a lot of information in that last 10 minutes. Right now, if you were a person that wanted to go spearfishing in the Great Lakes,
Yes.
or Lake Michigan specifically, if you're from the Lower Peninsula, where can and can't you go? What species can you shoot? And what do you need to get started?
Okay, let's just boundaries and fish. Perfect. On Lake Michigan, for the new game fish that are currently available, northern pike, lake trout, and walleye may be harvested from the southernmost pier in Grand Haven all the way down to wherever Lake Michigan ends in Indiana. It's like New Buffalo or something, like right around there.
Right.
And they can be pursued on Lake Huron from the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse, which is just above whatever is that St. Clair River, I guess, where the St. Clair River enters there. I think Fort Gratiot Lighthouse just above that, north to the southernmost pier on where the Thunder Bay River enters Lake Huron, or the Thunder Bay. And that's where you can target the new game fish. All bodies of water, non-designated trout streams and trout lakes are open to the rough fish that you can bow fish for year-round. No exceptions. No it's the same harvest limits that you would have for whitefish or whatever. So that's as simple as it gets. That's covering your waters and your species. What do you need? Well, it depends on your cold tolerance. I would say like a little 5 millimeter, if you wanted to be super basic, get a 5mm surfing wetsuit, probably some kind of a hood, because you're gonna lose all your heat through your head first. Then fins, mask, snorkel. If you want to be able to actually dive underneath the surface of the water, which you have to do if you want to be able to harvest fish, that's the rule. You have to be fully submerged.
You can't shoot them from above?
You can't shoot them from the surface. You have to be fully submerged.
For game fish?
For any fish. When attempting to harvest fish with a spear gun, you have to be under the surface of the water. So with
a spear gun though.
We need
With
to
a
go back
spear
and do
gun.
some editing on an episode.
Well, no, I think it's more specific though, because with the spear gun, not
With
a
the
spear
We
gun.
need to go back and do some editing on an episode.
Okay.
Reed
that
likes,
applies to underwater spearfishing.
Reed likes
I was trying
floating
to
on
help
the
you out, Reed.
surface.
That being said,
No, I was in.
if you
I'm
were
shutting
to
up.
shoot a carp from the surface, I don't think you're gonna get in trouble.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
so like let's pretend
Because I've definitely done that. I have,
Oh,
I
cool,
have
yeah.
no-
Okay, so you and I
have
are going
no
down together.
problems. Yeah, I have no problem
30-pound
saying that.
carp out of a kayak. It
Do
was
it.
awesome. Yeah, spring. It was sick. Spear gun.
Got him.
Oh, it was so cool. Drug me around the bay.
Oh,
It was so sick, dude.
yeah, I have no issues with that. Like, if you're gonna shoot the same fish we're allowed to do it from before, whatever. I don't
Well, yeah, I could do it with a bow.
Bow and arrow,
Yeah,
right?
like what's the difference?
like I said, if a CO comes up to you and they're like, "Sorry, kid, man, you just took out a carp with your spear gun from your kayak." I find that hard to believe. Most of them come up to me and ask me to take them out. So, like,
Right.
I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, just understand that what the law is and what you do is what you do. And
hmm
I think that's
Anyways.
yeah.
So you got to dive.
Yeah.
You have to
Dive underneath the water. You got to dive
Okay.
underneath the water, shoot them. I forget kind of where we were going with that.
So let's talk about
Weight
the gear. That's right.
Yeah.
Then you need
Wetsuit.
a weight belt. So you need, depending on your buoyancy level, you will require a certain amount of weight to make you neutrally buoyant, essentially.
Not fat shaming, but
Not fat shaming, but the more buoyant you are, the more weight you need. So get you under. I like a knife. You need some kind of a stringer to string your fish up on.
Oh man, I saw a video of you with this big hook, just
Yes.
jam-packed full of walleye.
Yep,
Holy smokes!
that was not all my fish.
No,
Right.
obviously not.
But yeah, those are the basics. And this thing right here. See this fantastic little device? This is called a diver down flag, and you must stay within 100 feet of that at all times. That's the rule.
Do you attach that to your? Well,
I attach it to a 50-yard or 50-foot float line,
okay.
and that float line is connected to a float, which literally blows you. It's inflatable. You just blow it up with your mouth, and you put that on top, and then you drag that on your 50-foot rope, and that keeps you within that boundary. And then boaters have to stay, I think it's 200 feet away from that. Now, that being said, there's a caveat to that. If you are a part of the diving operations, you're obviously allowed to be within that boundary. Or if you are under control of your boat and you're not zooming through like a speedboat, I have no problem with you being closer than 200 feet. If you're being responsible and you can make a course correction, if you see me, I have no issue with that. I've had people come up when I was up in Sault Ste. Marie. I had a couple native guys who were trying to spear salmon with a handheld propelled spear.
Coming to bless you. Yeah.
No, they lost their spear at the dam, and they came up to me and like, "Hey, can you get our spear for us?" I was like, "Absolutely." So they drugged me with their boat to where they threw their spear, and I swam down there, grabbed it, and gave it to them.
That's great.
And they traded me a whitefish for it.
Oh, dude, it's the Wild West.
It's super cool. I haven't posted that video yet, but I'm going to.
That is.
Yeah, that's
that's
sweet.
freaking awesome.
I have a lot,
Trade you
but I
the
mean,
sealskin and
that's just a
whitefish.
very simple example of like, hey, like if you break that 200-foot boundary, you're not a felon. You're not a criminal. I'm not going to call the Coast Guard on you or the DNR. It's just like, hey, I want to know that you see me. That's all I really care
Right.
about. Don't be recklessly speeding by me, right? It's just like doing 50 in a 25 or residential zone.
Construction
Like,
zone.
just be
Yeah.
able to make your course corrections. Just don't be reckless.
I will say, growing up, Reed probably can contest to this. Growing up, ever since we were old enough to walk behind the helm of a boat and just, being on the water and everything, I am a firm believer that anybody who operates a boat should have to go through boater safety.
You
Absolutely.
didn't even have to
Because-
say it, and I knew.
Because
Oh my
the
God.
amount of dumbasses that are on the water these days is insane. It blows my mind.
And they're
every
almost
year.
all recreational boaters too.
Yes.
Yep. And you add an alcohol in there and it becomes even worse.
How is that okay?
50 people a year on Lake Michigan alone die from alcohol-related boat incidences or drownings.
I don't understand. And that's maybe that's another thing that has to get put into the law. I think you have to go through boater safety if you're going to operate a boat.
Yeah.
It's weird with jet skis. You legally have to have a boater safety certificate if you're born before 1967, I believe, is something like that. But on a normal watercraft, I don't think so. I think as long as you have a legal driver's license.
Just any Yahoo can go buy a boat and let it rip.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's the problem. Like I think in order to get behind the steering wheel of a boat, you have to go. I mean, it's so easy. Like if anybody listening, if I can give you one piece of advice, if you go out on the water, just go take the course and have the card with you, because there's so many just little valuable pieces of information. Like you may think it makes sense. It's not like driving a car. Like, it's way more wide open, but there's so many factors. You got to be looking. You don't know if somebody was tubing and fell off the tube and is in front of you. You don't know if there's a guy that's diving. Maybe he had a float and the wave knocked the flag over and it's floating on the surface and you can't see it. It's just, there's so many different factors, and it's just, driving a boat is a way bigger responsibility than people think.
Yeah, it's not just keep it between the lines.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not that
there's
simple.
no lines, there's waves, and they move you, and they throw you.
Exactly. And then there's fog, right?
The Great Lakes are
waves,
dangerous.
Yep. And then, like I said, it claims a decent amount of people every year just from that alone. So it's like, that's why we have our flags, and that's why, one of the big arguments I'm getting right now is that, if you legalize salmon, spearfishermen are going to start going to, Manistee and Frankfurt and Ludington, and they're going to start targeting those salmon. And, there's all these boats, going out of the harbor there and blah, 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 that, this is our living and whatever. And I'm like, have you seen any spearfishermen there ever? We avoid you. You guys have lines, 150 feet out on each side.
How many salmon guys are running that close to the shoreline too?
Apparently they do, right? And that's fine, whatever. It's still their responsibility, right? Do you still have to look out for small watercraft, kayakers, canoers, stand-up paddleboarders,
swans,
anybody? Like, I mean, they still have to do that. Like, that's a responsibility as a captain, is to ensure that they don't, harm anybody and get everybody back safely, right? That's like your job as a charter. And they're like, oh, well, you guys are gonna, we don't want to hurt anybody. And it's like, first off, we're gonna avoid you like the plague, because that's what you are, right? You're gonna kill us. So I naturally do that. Like, go to Saginaw Bay, like the best fishery on Lake Huron for walleye. That's where those 244 walleye, which were probably 150 of them, were harvested by me and my buddies. I cannot wait for Seth to send me those numbers, because I want to see who was killing all these walleye, because I almost can guarantee it was me and like 6 of my buddies. But we went over there, and never once did we have a conflict with anybody. We never even seen like other walleye anglers. They all went out to the big water, deep water, trolling, places we would never go. We fish isolated, select, weed beds and, rock piles and things like that.
Places you can't troll. Every freaking charter I've ever been on, whether you're going after lake trout, walleye, salmon, you're going 10, 15 not miles, but you're going 5 to 10 miles offshore at least.
That's my whole point. I think I've been on a couple salmon charters myself. What do? They go out at butt crack of dawn. They drive out to some horn over in Ludington where it's like 120 feet, and these fish apparently stack up on it. And I'm just like, where's the threat here, guys? Like, they also didn't know a lot. They didn't know anything about underwater spearfishing, just for an example. So, but I was like, it's hard to talk to somebody who doesn't understand what you're doing and like try and reassure them that you're not going to like,
they're uneducated, and their knee-jerk reaction is to freak out about it because you're encroaching on their
But what did I do? I sent them the videos I've done with Michigan Outdoors. I sent them podcasts like this. I'm like, hey guys, get educated, learn what I'm talking about. I go on Mike Avery. I talk to them. He's a Michigan, Charter Boat Association member, and they recognize him well. So I'm like, hey, Mike has given me a great platform to talk with these guys and get to know them and hopefully ease their minds Because those are my biggest detractors at the moment. Everybody else is just like, good luck getting a salmon, It's like, and then we're like, thank you. That's all I want is like a good luck and a go getter, Like, we'll stay away from the people with the poles. We'll stay away from the people with the boats. Like, we're trying a different method here. We're like, this is all new water. We're gonna work through this, just like anything. It's gonna take time, Like,
if anything, it's more just like they're feeling inferior because all of a sudden your big dick energy shows up with the spear guns and it's just
sniping their fish.
And then maybe they were, downplaying it, but they were like, "Hey, John, we don't mind if you shoot any of these fish, and we don't blah blah, but we just care about everybody's safety." Yeah, I was like,
get out of here.
Oh, that's another thing. So that's what Randy Claremont said. He was like, "Hey, talk with these associations, the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative and the Northwest, Fishing Club or whatever it was." He's like, talk to them and come up with some kind of an agreement that you can all, get behind, and then I'll 100% recommend that. And I was like, all right, bet. Talk to these guys. They were like, well, John, this is what we want. We want you to stay 200 feet away from any pier head on all the Great Lakes. Then they were like, you must yield to pier anglers and boat anglers.
Yield to them?
Yeah, whatever that means, right? Like, right. Like, oh, I'm over here and a boat comes by, I have to swim away. Like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, that totally just doesn't make any sense. And then they were like, you can only spearfish between August 1st and September 31st. So a 60-day window, and you can only do it between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
3 hours a day for 60 days for 180 hours total. And that's your season.
When the fish are most likely not there.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. I was like, this is a joke. I sent it to all the commissioners. I was like, and they were like, they actually had a little bit more like, who do these guys think they are? Because I was like, hey, I can like be reasonable here, but like that's completely, to say that there will be no opportunity for a spearfisherman to go out around a pier head at some point between August and September is ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, Ed Blissick of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative, he was like all for it. He was like, absolutely, go for it. Anything to get people out there and getting salmon. But like the other guys were just like, oh, we care about your safety too much, John. We're so safe, stay out of the water. Which I was like, okay, that's funny. But
you ever been paranoid about potentially getting snagged?
No, because I stay away from those people.
Okay,
I mean,
you're further enough out.
You're up closer. I mean, what typically when you're diving, how many feet of water are you diving in?
12 to 30 feet, mostly.
Oh,
okay.
Not
they're
deep.
Nowhere near.
Not even, yeah. Like, yeah, most of the
maybe
people
the guys running planer boards.
And
maybe they're still at 50 or 60.
I've had one guy. He was, I assume, trolling he had way too many lines out for being by himself. He had like 17 lines out. I swear to God, I was like, wow.
He had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I couldn't see anybody else in the boat. He had 8 lines. I swear to God, I thought he was gonna snag him because he was like there were 2 pier heads separated. And we were kind of fishing like the corners of them. And he comes bombing right through the middle. And he had 4 on each. I swear he was going to snag like the rocks. And you know what I did? I swam out of the way. I was like, have a good one.
Dude, you're way too rational.
He just went right through the middle and we went right back to what we were doing.
Billy, you'll never guess. I saw a guy down in the water with a spear gun. He was spearing.
I mean, it's
taking our walleyes.
It was like, and most of the people who see me do it, they're like, "Oh, that's really cool, very unique."
No, it is cool. It really is. I guess my question for you is, I know bow hunting or bow fishing is specifically a little bit less palatable. How much resistance have you received with this kind of thing?
From who?
From anybody, general public, people standing on the piers, like anything like that.
Every time I'm on a pier and I walk up with fish, I have videos of people, just like hordes of people just around. Oh my God, look at those fish. Oh my God, that's so cool. I didn't even know you could do this.
There's like no public pushback?
Oh, everybody in the public loves it. Like when I'm in public, right? When I'm in public, when I'm actually on a pier and I walk up and I got, 6 drum or some carp or whatever.
Yeah, but later they hop on Instagram.
I don't think so. But anyways,
it's the eyelid theory.
It's the eyelid theory, yes.
So he has this thing called
Nobody
the
cares
eyelid.
about fish. They don't have eyelids. They don't express any emotion,
That's
so
fair.
they don't care.
Yeah, they don't have hair.
Yeah, they're not
Right?
cute.
Yeah, right. I can see that 100%. Well, I mean, we also like fish, but like eating them,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh yeah,
Yeah, nobody has sympathy for
But the
fish.
ones
I
you're
can agree.
killing aren't, it's not Nemo.
Right. I mean, they're usually. I mean, most of the time when I show up in a public area with fish after I've been spearfishing, I get nothing but like, oh my god, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's all I've ever heard. Like, no one's like, oh my god, I can't believe you killed those fish. I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool. That's like,
I watch a lot of videos of guys who do diving in like rivers and lakes and stuff, and they go for treasure and they clean stuff. Do you keep like a separate bag on you to clean up?
absolutely.
You found a Weber grill, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Oh, you seen that video?
I did.
Oh, you haven't seen part 2. Oh my god, it's even better.
Did you
So-
cook fish on it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
full circle.
Literally, I said it in the video. I was
That's
like,
incredible.
I was like, go spearfishing. You can shoot fish, find lures, get the cooking supplies, and
It's an
nets.
expensive grill.
Dude, $200.
So what's the craziest thing outside of that you found?
We found some nets that day, downriggers, anchors, a lot of anchors. So there was a sailboat that crashed in one of the harbors that we regularly frequent, I guess, and there was a lot of stuff in that one that I haven't been to yet because my buddy Riley was out there and I was at work, unfortunately. But I mean, he said they had this. I mean, he showed me the anchor that they had. It was like a big aluminum anchor, and he was like a $800 anchor.
Ooh.
So I didn't. That was Riley. That wasn't me though. But I think the Weber grill was probably one of the coolest ones. Rods, all the basic fishing supplies, pretty much. Like, but like, I got that video. We found over 100 fishing lures, spoons, and blade baits and whatnot. Downriggers, 2 nets, the spear that we got for the native guys, the grill, flashlights. I mean, we cleaned up, months and months and months worth of litter and debris.
Is that just kind of like
fishing
your
anglers.
go-to rule? Like you swim down, if you see something, I have to pick it up. Or do you pass on a lot of stuff?
It depends on its value.
Okay.
I mean,
So you're not down
picking,
there like picking up
broken.
trash.
I'm not picking up broken. Well, sometimes it
Okay.
depends on how bad it is, right? Or how abundant the fish are. Like if I swim the whole area and there's no fish, yeah, I'll clean up trash on my way back, sure. But like if I'm fishing, I'm fishing. All right, I'm not there to pick up
Right.
trash. But at that particular video, we got into spearfish, and it was a gold mine, dude. Like those spoons were $5 a piece. It's like a $5 bill. Everywhere you look, there's $5 bills. Are you gonna pass it up? Absolutely not. I tell you what, I'm not.
Before you know it, we're gonna see Durtka Enterprises, like secondhand resale shop
Durtka
online.
resale. lures.
I've had people reach out and be like, dude, I lost a whole like downrigger setup, like the whole.
Yeah.
He was like, he DM'd me. He was like, dude, I lost it like this summer. Can you help me get it? And I was like, no, it's December and it's freezing cold. I was like, next year, hit me up if you still want to get it. And I'm up there. I'll swing by and grab it for you. But
What's the legality of spearfishing with tanks?
oh yeah, no scuba diving.
So it's
permitted.
all free diving.
all free diving. That was one of the things
No
that
hookah?
you can use your hookah lungs.
Like no hookah systems, nothing. Like you can't have any air source.
Artificial breathing device is prohibited.
No go. Got it.
So,
No kayaks.
no.
Be underwater.
Yeah, be underwater, hold your breath. So, I mean, that was like an easy way to say, maintain fair chase.
Yep.
Right.
I respect that.
Right. Like,
yeah.
yeah. If you're diving on, a wreck that's 120 feet down, like you're generally not going to be doing that on your own breath. Right. But if you're a pretty good scuba diver, you can maybe go down there. I don't know that it would make any difference, but I mean, it was just like when you're negotiating with these different fishing groups and people within them, they're like, well, I think it's ridiculous that you could go down there with scuba. Well, if you couldn't, would that be better? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, then it's better. Like I'm like, it's not that big of a deal to me to give up a scuba, because I don't scuba dive, right? And not
Right.
a lot of people do.
No, I don't know very many people that do at all.
So to me, it was
Now,
pretty easy.
Can you go down and get your rough fish with scuba gear or no?
No, it's completely
have to
prohibited
be free
overall now.
Got
with just within the order now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, please. Yeah. So yeah, if you have scuba gear on in general, then
No go.
it's
If you have a spear in your hand, you're done.
So I'm curious. I kind of want to rotate back to the gear portion of it. Let's say someone just wanting to get into it, a modest setup. Okay, everything you'd mentioned, just modest.
Okay.
What are they looking at in terms of investment wise? What they need to get into it? The things that they should obviously focus on or not worry about. Money wise, investment. What should they plan on?
That's a good question, right? It's really about how low end or high end you want to go. I would say low end. I mean, you could get a lot of secondhand gear, right? You could probably stay under $300, I would say, right?
Okay.
Like say fins, mask. I mean, mask, snorkel, you can go to a resale shop and get those at, pennies.
Yep.
Wetsuit's probably going to be the one thing wetsuit and spear gun are probably going to be the number one thing that are going to make the biggest dent in that budget.
Okay.
The spear gun is a difficult thing to. You want to tell somebody what to do, but at the same time, you're like, I can't, force you to spend outside of your budget or whatever. But they're like, well, I don't know if I would like it, and I can almost guarantee you're gonna like it. It's pretty freaking sweet.
So
if you're comfortable in the water, it's gonna be sweet.
Yeah.
So that on the flip side, like I did a little bit of research ahead of time on spear guns because we were talking about it. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, what's the cheapest spear gun I can get into? And I went on Amazon, and I think you can
Pretty
find
cheap.
them for $60 to $100.
And you know how long they're gonna last you?
That's my question.
Yeah.
Is so like to the person who is listening to this, that's going to go start filling up their cart.
Oh.
What is the negative effect?
Your
they're
trigger
gonna find?
mechanism. Remember when I said your trigger mechanism is like 90% of your gun? How long is that thing gonna last you? Because that's what matters.
Okay.
Because if you can't pull a trigger, you don't have a spear gun.
So what's a good? So you said wood. Wood is.
I like wood. I like the wood body. One reason, because it's so durable. It's so durable, right? And also looks sweet. But
It does. Big Moby Dick vibes.
right, just like it's just a good looking gun, right? But you get like a good point, right? You take an aluminum barrel gun and you throw it into your boat for some reason, and it hits the side of the boat. You can bend it just like that. Like it's just a aluminum barrel. That, like I said, you could swing that up against a tree and it would be fine. Like it's a baseball bat. That's like how well they're made. At least that's how well Charlie makes them. So that's why I'm like that. And he uses the highest quality, one of the best trigger mechs out there that you can get. You can buy a $20 trigger mechanism that it may work for a month. It may work for a year, or it might break on the 6th trigger pull.
Have you ever thought about building your own spear gun?
No,
You're just not about that.
I'm not.
You just want to kill fish.
It's sure I've thought about it, but I'm like, that's not my thing, right? I'm not a woodworker. That's a whole different skill. I would much rather take people out and show them what spearfishing is about rather than like start. I'm not trying to start making like my own gear here. I'd rather promote people who make their own gear, right? Like this is a whole learning curve. You got to get like, lathes, and I don't even know how all that, like woodworking gear. I have no idea. I don't even want to look into that, honestly. I would rather just be like, here, I have a little boat. I can take you out on the water. I can show you the water. I would rather be a guide and a freedive instructor. That would be where I would want to invest in myself. Right?
I mean, spearfishing alone is a challenge. I was I think when we were in Hawaii, I was in the water for like 4 hours, I would say.
Yeah. Yep.
And
that's warm water too, 85.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was
beautiful.
It was warm water. I still had a wetsuit on the top, nothing on the bottom. I mean, swim shorts, fins,
like a
goggles.
rash guard, like a little rash guard. Yeah.
We weren't using guns.
Finger.
I had a stringer, and you'd dive down and you'd hold on to the reef and you'd wait, but we weren't going after big game fish. We were going after, these tiny little panfish, and you'd have to get really close to them with these spears. And I probably missed 80% of the shots that I took. Maybe higher.
Wow, that's really bad. Your breath holds must suck.
Yes. No. That's 100% it. And that's the next topic I wanted to get over to is training, because like one thing we've talked about this a lot in the last year is repressurization.
Equalization. Yes.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
ears. Equalizing your ears.
Equalizing your ears. And the guy that when I went in Hawaii, what he told me is like so much of it is in the first like 8 feet. And I never knew that because you and I were talking and Ree would always say he'd dive down. And then once you'd get to like 6 or 7 feet, then you'd try to equalize.
And it hurt too much.
And it would hurt a ton.
Yep.
So tell us about that process to be a good diver where you can actually get down deep without it hurting.
Go to your local pool. Right? Go to your high school pool, anything that's got like a 8, 10, 13 foot deep end, and just get a diving brick or something like that and work on it. It's very simple. Like your gestation tubes, right? They go from your nose, across your cheeks, and into your inner ear. All you have to do, close your mouth, plug your ears, and blow. And it'll equalize your ears.
Just like when you're landing in a plane, right?
Exactly. But here's the thing. Like you said, the deeper it goes, the harder it gets. Equalize on the surface. First, when you go 90, like, you're here, and then you start like that, equalize again at 4. Feet under, equalize again at 8. And after that, like, you have that top 4, 8, you should equalize every 5 to 10 feet. And that's like the best way to do it. But learning in a pool is your best way to do it. And while you're in that pool, swim like 500 yards. It's going to improve your lung capacity.
What's the best way to train the lung capacity? Because that was a problem. I got the equalization down for a while, after a while, but I'd get all the way down, 15, 20 feet, and I'd be holding on to a reef, and then as soon as I'm down there, I'm like, oh, gotta go.
Right.
Straight, straight back up to the surface.
You can do a couple things. You can swim across a pool without taking a breath. Hold your breath just while you like freestyle across the pool. That's a good way to, breath hold is CO2 tolerance in its most basic form, right? CO2 builds up as you burn through your oxygen, and that tells you to breathe. Not that you necessarily have to. So if you can become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like, okay, I don't really need to breathe, right? Like you feel it right there in your like kind of like your esophagus or whatever. Do things that make you feel that and then get used to them, right? It's not like you're just going to be able to instantly be better at it, but if you do things like hold your breath while you swim or float with your face down in the shallow end of the pool as long as you can, and those kind of things, they'll help you be better over time. And that's where training comes in, building your lung capacity so that you can actually hold more oxygen. Because as you dive, right, they call it atmospheres. You get different atmospheres. You get one atmosphere, you're at the surface. That's number one.
Second, 33 feet, right?
33 feet is the second atmosphere, and then so on and so forth, right? But as you do that, from top to 33, second atmosphere, your lungs will literally shrink 50%. And then the next atmosphere, a quarter, and then an eighth, and then a 16th, and so on and so forth. And they basically plateau after like 100 feet or something like that. So, but that's, wow. So once you do that, those are like things you got to like learn, because how can you, when you equalize, you use the oxygen in your lungs to push the pressure out from the water. Well, as your lungs literally start shrinking, that's the key to go like really deep. Free divers, the guys are going 300 or 400 feet. They're the best at maximizing the lung capacity so that they have that oxygen to equalize at 300 feet down or whatever it is.
In my mind, that is just such a freeing feeling. Like, if from our perspective, I can go down for maybe 35 seconds max.
Okay.
It's less than a minute. And I think about guys like you and guys like that can hold their breath for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time. I don't know what your max is, but can you imagine how that would change everything to just be able to like just cruise through rocks and coral reef and just like soak in that? It's a whole different world. You're flipping our world upside down. And to be able, like, when you're limited to a minute, you're really not experiencing that.
Yeah. And that
because you're thinking about surfacing and getting that air. But if you're
you're anxious,
if you don't have to worry about that and you're completely calm, you're taking in an entire different world that 90% of the population's not going to ever experience.
Underwater's the new frontier, man. It's like the last unexplored place, really. Like you go to a pier and like you said, you find all these lures and nobody's going down and getting them. Like I said, they're $5 bills.
Your handle should have been Spear Gun Cowboy.
I like that.
There's still time.
The Michigan Speargun Cowboy. I don't know, man. It's just like I think a lot of that had to do with my competitive swimming experience and my lifeguarding experience, where I was doing underwater training. We call them in services as lifeguard. I was like a water park lifeguard. So we were doing rescues underwater. So I think I was kind of, exposed early on in high school to those kind of experiences. So holding my breath in like stressful situations and like, fighting that urge to breathe, maybe that I'm sure that had to play a role in it growing into the spearfisherman I am today. But I mean, one of the best things I can say is get in a pool, start getting comfortable and, swimming or running, build your, lung capacity, and then go take a class, man. Like I flew all the way to Miami, Florida. I went Roy Fiera, free dive 305. I went and took his class. Took me out. He took me spearfishing in saltwater for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, he, took me down 66 feet. And then before I knew it, I was diving 90 and 100 feet. And, now you're holding your breath for 3-4 minutes, like you were saying. I was doing static breath holds at almost 4 minutes.
Holy smokes.
That's
It's
insane.
pretty good, man.
Yeah.
That's,
So,
it's
and like a
impressive.
lot of people don't understand, like if you can swim down on the bottom, like you were saying, the first 30 seconds is like when they're adjusting to your presence. Like when you go top to bottom and then you sit there, okay, they're like, what is this thing? It just got here. And if you're already swimming up to the surface, you'll never see them again. But I can swim down there and I can stay on the bottom and they'll swim right up to me. You give them that time, they go like, all right, that's good enough. I trust it now.
Check his vibe.
Right, yeah, go check his vibe, dude.
Check.
What?
It
Bad
seems
vibes.
okay.
Good vibes.
Yeah, come here, my friends.
Oh, dude, he's cool.
Spirit-
He's giving me the peace sign.
Spirit fingers for you. Spirit fingers for you. And
You're coming home in the ceviche, my man.
The Weber.
Right. I'm going to put some Cajun on you.
So what about inland waters? What's the goal? What's the goal there? I know there's a certain I saw for a split second there's a couple caveats to that.
So currently, like I said, inland waters are only permitted for the non-new game fish.
So if we wanted to go to the Grand River right now, which is disgusting, but put fins on,
Sure.
wetsuit, we can go spear carp
Yep.
and invasive species,
100%.
just not game fish.
Yep, just not the new game fish, right? So that being said, you can still go to
Is that a great?
Lake Walloon or Lake Charlevoix or Torch Lake or whatever. Any inland lake you want to.
Is that a good way to kind of train and get your feet wet? If you've got something nearby and you don't want to travel to Lake Michigan, I know
If
the
it's
clear.
clear.
I was gonna say I know clarity is probably
Clarity
an issue.
is your number one freak factor to me, right? When you start diving into an environment that you can't see in, and especially when it gets cold, because you hit that thermocline at like 15, 20 feet or whatever it is,
that thing is brutal.
and it's scary, and it's just
man.
like a whole new world. You
I
went
found
from like,
that for the
I'm
first
happy,
time.
yeah, I'm happy, and then I'm like, oh hell no.
It
Well,
smacks
that's
you in
what
the
scares.
face
That's
so
what
hard.
scares me about Lake Charlevoix. Is like my dad can free dive down the drop off, and I've done that before, but it gets really dark, and you get lower and lower, and then all of a sudden you hit that weed line, and as soon like you get those tall weeds that are like 6, 7 feet, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, and
That sounds like a really good spot.
I get to those weeds.
Tell me again where this is. Show me your place.
Wait.
But I get to those weeds, and that's where it's like, back to the surface.
Yep.
But there's been times where I'm out in an undisclosed location outside there in Lake Michigan, and it's 20 feet, and I can just like hold my breath and sit on the bottom, and I can see everything. It's like snorkeling in Bermuda.
It's
It's
incredible.
blows my mind
Yep.
that Michigan has that, and that it's freshwater.
Yep. And yeah, it's like Lake Michigan especially has some of the clearest water that you'll find. Especially you get like a good blow from the main lake or whatever. You get a good west wind that comes in and blows in some clean water, and you're like, oh. Just
Yeah.
like incredible. I mean, I have videos when I was in Grand Traverse Bay. I mean, just like you said, tropical water. I mean,
It's nuts.
It's incredible.
The amount of times we've been out there on our jet skis, like first thing in the morning at like 7 a.m. and it's just glass, and I can turn it off, and I look down and I can see fish, and you feel like boulders are right there,
Yep.
and then you jump in, you're like, oh wait, that boulder's actually 35 feet away, but you're worried you're going to hit it. It's so cool, the resources Michigan has. So I shout you out for opening this.
Hey man, you show me those spots. I want to go there. That sounds incredible, man.
Sounds like we will in 2025.
I was gonna say, I tell you what, you show me the clean deep water, and I'll take you free diving. We'll throw a little line on the ground, and we'll drop down to the bottom. I'll teach you how to hold your breath, whatever it is.
So what it sounds like is
we got some adventures in the future.
We're gonna do some training this entire year in the pool. Maybe stock it for some practice.
Any body of water that is not connected to a natural stream or lake does not apply to the regulations. Fun fact.
Gravel pits?
If it's not connected to any natural body of water, the regulations do not apply. You can spearfish, trout, bass, anything. If it's in a private body of water that's not connected to a natural stream or lake by any means,
this just
100%
got interesting.
We just
100%,
Okay.
100% legal to do whatever you want. There's
We
no
just found
seasons,
that-
there's no bag limits, there's no sign limits.
We
And
found
you
our
Shoot a
training
carp from a
spot.
kayak.
We know our training spot.
that's
Yeah, are you
just a
thinking
fun
about it?
fact. If it's a private, non-connected to natural bodies of water, it's free reign.
Oh, that's super cool. Okay.
Freaking awesome.
So now you know.
All right. Let's pivot away from spearfishing a little bit. And let's talk about you. Let's go deep.
Oh shit.
So we're a beer and a half in. So are you ready?
Oh yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead,
What are
100%.
you passionate about?
What am I passionate about? Ooh, interesting. Oh God, this sounds so lame. I kind of love line dancing. So
Sick, dude.
I'm big. I've been line dancing for like 10 or 11, 12 years now, something like that.
Sorry, we don't have more square footage down here.
I love it,
I'd
man.
bust out the boot scoot and boogie right here and let you go to town.
But it's never really been anything it's just been activity, man. It's just
What drives you though? Like
just active. I just
okay.
like experience, right?
like just doing things.
Doing
like
things.
staying
Whether
moving.
it's like my next thing I want to do is like kiteboarding. I want to get into that.
Yes.
That's sweet.
Super want to get into. I love snowboarding, like trail running, or
What's your day job?
I'm an electrician.
Oh,
I'm an
sick.
IBW member, so I work for the union in Ann Arbor, Local 252. I just completed that apprenticeship in 2022, so I'm a year out. I'm called a JJ, junior journeyman.
Nice.
So it just started to make some actual decent money. So I'm actually now able to,
Some
afford
big kid money. that
Yeah,
you can buy
I
some
can afford some more
fish.
hobbies and bullshit. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like get a kiteboarding kit. Like, I can just say if there's one thing that just drove me, it's just always just like activity. I just like doing things that, whether it's finding morel mushrooms or, kayaking or fishing or, just new adventure, just excitement. Like that's, whether it's learning a new line dance or two-step or, those kind of things. I'm just like things that just keep me. I don't like getting feeling like I'm stuck in something, if that makes sense.
you don't like the feeling of complacency,
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, just I don't like being
comfortable.
some people just they live for routine, and
They
don't.
wake up, they have their coffee, they work their 9 to 5, they go home, they watch a show with their wife in the evening, and they watch football on the weekends. They live for Fridays.
I don't have a TV. Right? I don't own a TV. I don't care about sports. Like those are things that I don't like, right? Like a mountain
Dude,
bike. Like
love that.
get out. Like you see my mountain bikes in the back of my car.
Yeah,
I
literally walked up and he's
keep
got
it in
his
there.
in the back of his car.
Prepared.
I'm like, yeah, I was just like, because I have the DT. That's why I moved to where I live, is because in Grass Lake, where I'm at, I'm surrounded by 120,000 acres of public land. The DTE Foundation trails have 20 some miles of bike trails, and you have all these different lakes and everything, and you're just it's a perfect spot. If you want to do something that doesn't involve being in a house and being lazy. I replaced my couch with an Olympic gym set. That's what I have. I don't have a
Dude.
couch. I don't have a TV.
He doesn't watch TV and he doesn't sit, folks.
Dude, you're living, and I wish if I could take your mentality and copy and paste it to the entire upcoming generation. Do you know how revolutionary that would be?
It would.
It
You
would
create a
change
lot
everything.
you'd be a lot of really cool people, man. It'd be like
The amount of dope stuff we'd have legalized. Are you kidding me?
that's in the next thing, man. I'm gonna try and get deer spear fishing for deer. So I can go in the rivers, and when they cross the river, no, just kidding.
Crossbows have already taken that.
Okay,
So okay, you guys got to tell me about this beef with spear or with crossbows.
What's there to tell? They suck.
You just don't like them?
Okay. No. Here's the caveat. We've talked about it. Our big beef with crossbows
We touched
is
on that,
it's giving the wrong intro into the bow hunting realm for young people.
Okay.
So I am
Is
all.
it that?
So,
or is it the fact that it allows a certain demographic to enter into a longer season of hunting that
well, that's the other other.
Okay, so I
portion of
have
it.
heard that argument where they think that crossbows should be more lumped in with a rifle season versus, say, the entirety of an archery season.
Yeah.
If we were to back up 10 plus years ago, the only way we had a friend who had, I forget what it was. It was like onset Parkinson's, big bow hunter, could no longer pull a bow back. And then he legally could go through the DNR and get a crossbow and hunt with it.
Right.
I am the biggest advocate for that. Anything that we can do to keep somebody through the sport. I don't care who you are, whether you're an old guy who can't pull a bow back anymore, you've got some kind of physical impairment, you got in a car wreck, you were an Army vet, that got messed up and can no longer pull a bow back. I am the biggest advocate for that. Any way to keep you in the outdoors, I will move hell or high water, whether it's a crossbow.
But only if you're disabled.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Right.
You're
Exactly.
physically.
Right.
If you are physically able to pull a bow back, I don't care if it's 40 pounds, 30 pounds, you should.
Okay.
You should be.
So let me
able
play
to-
devil's advocate
Okay,
because
hit
this is
us with it.
this is
yeah,
my
we
good thing.
do like
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Right. So just like we've noticed, right? Like hunter numbers are declining, right? As they have license sales,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
So if crossbows, stabilized that, right? Brought more people back into it. Would you be okay with that?
With a separate season.
Okay. Now, let me ask another question, right? Going back to what you just said about saying bow poundages and let's just say accuracy for whatever reason, right? Would you rather have a category of people who are ineffective
Thin ice,
and
you're
dangerous?
on. Thin ice, you're on.
Dangerous with a bow, right? Like how are we going to determine? Do you want people who are with a vertical bow who are more likely to wound or hurt an animal versus give them a solid platform which they can be very accurate and effective with? And so which one are you
So we've talked about this.
so this is
Yep,
what
I knew you were gonna go there.
what I question, right? Is like, hey, I would rather have a youth season where you give a kid a crossbow instead of giving him a 35-pound longbow or a compound bow, and the likelihood of him wounding a deer, right, significantly versus like giving him a crossbow where he can effectively kill that deer, right? The whole point to me is to give him the experience, which will then draw him into the sport, not necessarily with the weapon he chose, but with the adventure and the experience.
We've talked about this where we believe crossbows are entry and exit tools.
Okay.
And if you can physically draw back a bow, then it's a fair chase thing,
Right.
And what it does is like too many people put too much faith in the crossbow to
100%.
perform in ways that it does not
And
perform.
they're shooting 70, 80, 90
Correct.
yards. Yeah.
They don't realize that 40 to 60 yard mark is a real
Terrible
scary zone to shoot.
Yeah, especially
The crossbow can do it. But
The newer ones
the deer's
can.
going to drop,
Yeah.
right? And so to your point, we actually it's really hard to find the statistics on this as far as like, successfully recovering deer after the shot's taken with the bow, whether it's vertical or horizontal.
Oh, I would say crossbows outweigh compounds all day. I think.
Didn't we look up that stat? That's 70. It was like 75% were.
Yeah, I think there was a
was
effectiveness rate of to my understanding, effectiveness with a crossbow was like 73%. Like their effectiveness,
It was higher.
It was very high.
That's right.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Which
It's because it's easier.
it is 100%. You
Yeah.
can use a rest, right?
Yeah.
Like you can
Yeah.
actually use a rest. Like so simple. That being said, it's like, what is it about crossbow hunters that you
It's the
dislike?
demographic.
It's the demographic.
Yeah,
So
it's
you,
the demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't actually
it's lazy. It's not.
we don't have an issue with the actual like
Because
the-
you can shoot
the-
a crossbow twice and be like, I'm ready to hunt. Right?
Right.
Yours is like a bow. You have to actually put in the time.
Here would be
Yeah.
my argument. We spend so much time throughout the year being proficient. We shoot thousands and thousands of arrows all year long.
That's a great point. See, you're saying that, hey, we work hard. Why
Yeah.
is our season being intruded on?
by somebody
Right?
that
By-
says
By somebody who just
No
picked up-
offense,
yeah.
That's
no
the biggest
offense to
point.
the guy who's listening, but
Right.
if you're able to roll off the couch and step on 2 packages of Twinkies on the way to your bucket or your box blind
Okay,
to
that's-
stick a raven up
Yep.
and then shoot a deer at 70 yards without, that's the same, you use the same action. You're using the same trigger as your 12 gauge or your 450 Bushmaster that's going to be after November 15th because hey, I'm going to get him during
Okay,
during the rut.
Is this a private versus public land issue for you? Because if let's just say you have a 20-acre lot and you just want to use a crossbow, so is to you, does it matter private versus public?
This might sound harsh, but it's the FUDs bleeding into the bow hunters.
Okay.
Because I would be willing to bet that the bow hunting community that we've experienced, we spend a lot of time at Total Archery Challenge, the archery community in general is a more ethical, physically fit, health conscious, proficient, disciplined, motivated, more successful overall realm of hunters
Okay.
than the gun hunters. So in my mind, it's the FUDs bleeding into the season because they know there's more opportunity from November 1st to November 15th.
This is a great point to I guess you could say almost reconcile, right? Because what are we? We're all hunters, right? So this is where we're internally, right? We don't like each other. We're like, you're a gun hunter, stay away from me. You're a crossbow hunter, stay away from me. But at the same time, we all need each other, right? Right? Because what do gun hunters do?
They keep the
They
population.
outnumber us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 to 1.
absolutely.
Right? So like whether you like it or not, who contributes more to conservation in Michigan?
Gun hunters.
Gun hunters, right?
But why can't you keep it in your season?
That's fine. So now that's where, okay, great point. Where do crossbows hunters fit into your hunting season in Michigan?
That's where I think if you're if you're a physically able adult, if or a teenager.
Okay, no. Going away from that, right? What is your solution to resolve the issue of a lack of discipline, right? An equipment advantage, we'll call it as simple as it is, an equipment advantage. Where do you solve it? Where from October 1st to January 1st, where do you put crossbow hunters that keeps them, involved and doesn't disadvantage you to the extent that you feel comfortable allowing them, for example, to be in the sport?
Gosh, I don't even know if in my mind it's a disadvantage thing. It's just more of a bad taste in my mouth that we spend so much time working hard for them to encroach on the season from the couch.
I'd go off of that too, because like going back to the kid thing, so getting them involved with me in my head, in my opinion, when you're getting into bow hunting, you want to learn the fundamentals and why it's important to do what you do for bow hunting.
Right.
So if you're getting right into a crossbow, you're not practicing with it. You're not putting in the time that you would with a compound or a recurve. So teaching, people who are just getting into it to put in the practice, to put in the work, all the hard stuff that goes into bow hunting compared to the crossbow. That's a big thing for me, is just teaching those bow hunting core fundamentals.
Okay, so let's go back another step.
Okay.
why don't
Dang it, I forgot this guy was involved in politics. Of course
why
he's gonna wipe
so
it
that's
full.
so why don't
I love this,
so
though.
this is I just said this is just kind of building on the same argument, right?
Yep.
Over time, right? Because what did Fred Bear do? He never used a compound bow, did he? So what if the recurve traditional trad bow hunters said, well, you can't use that damn compound bow.
They
What the
saw
hell
all
are you
the
talking
time.
about? You don't have to
Yep.
hold any weight when you're back here. What are you doing?
Yep.
You can hold that thing back for a minute and a half. I mean, could they use the same argument to say, well, they're not using their instincts and their natural abilities to just draw the bow and whatever, right? Just to instinctively shoot. Now they have these stupid sights that now they have digital stupid sights.
Yeah.
Right?
No. That's a very good argument.
Right,
that's good.
that going right versus feathered versus
Maybe it's
plastic veins.
maybe it's a difference of vertical draw, like a draw, a
but you
physical
use
drawing.
you use a
motion.
trigger mechanism on your compound, don't you? It's the same action.
It's true. You know where I hear that argument the most is coming from crossbow hunters saying where's the difference between using
So-
a high power gun and you using a compound
Trigger,
versus a recurve.
release,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'd love to see your 240-pound ass pull a bow back and hold it at 70 yards.
All right. So, but said, hey, we're all on the same team here. We have to understand where we're coming from, right? The whole point is to keep us all hunting, right? So, I mean, these are just my open thoughts, right? Because I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to scare anybody out of hunting generally. If somebody wants to, so here's a point, right? If somebody wants to go out into the woods, whether it's their backyard, whether it's on public land or a friend's house, and they want to shoot a deer and have the meat for themselves to eat it, consumptive, who the hell are we to tell them how they can do that? Right? If the technology exists, right? Like we don't ride horses to work anymore, right? We use the best technology that's available to us to do, to live our lives. Who are we to tell other people not to do that, right? Like you could still drive a car and be fit. Like you can still, take care of yourself. But if you're going out into the woods and to get food for yourself, right? That's the whole purpose of this, right? Like big trophy bucks are great and we want to manage our resources properly. At the same time, we have to remember we're Americans and we don't tread on each other because of how they choose to get their meat.
That is very valid.
Right?
It's true.
Like
It's true.
we have to understand, like, hey, now that being said, I'm not saying we can't manage it better, right? And say, hey, if you want to use a gun, you have 15th through the 30th of November and whatever. I'm just saying we have to be where, we have to think about that and say, okay, technology is advancing, things are becoming easier, whatever. Now, where do we want to fit this new technology into our hunting season so that these people can still have an opportunity for success, still get the wild game that they desire, still contribute to the conservation that we all love, and then we can all generally be happy with the experiences that we have.
I think I would be less inclined to get fired up about crossbows if I knew people had the same ethical mindset that the normal bow hunters did, because the amount of, I guess, one big example that I saw on Facebook this year, there was a kid. He was probably 20. I know him. He was probably 25 years old.
Okay.
Said really, really thankful. It was a tiny little 4.4 6-point buck. He's like very thankful for the opportunity to kill this deer. Went out in the blind and was able to shoot this deer at 60 yards with the crossbow with no prior training, or never
Oh,
fired.
you said the quiet part out loud.
Never.
No training.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
yeah.
with no training, never had to fire the weapon. It was very
Oh, so he never even shot.
No.
According to what you read.
exactly. And so he said, it was very bittersweet to sit in the blind and watch the deer die slowly. But also, it really made me realize, that deer had to die in order for me to live, and I will enjoy the meat around the table. So the big things that really hit home with me is I think he spoke for a large majority of crossbow hunters where there's not training. People aren't they're not going out and practicing, because we've talked about this. Like ravens, the secondhand market for raven crossbows is terrible because they wear out after 20 or 30 shots. Nobody's.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you're lucky, maybe 10.
Yeah, like 10, like
oh yeah, because they are super high powered.
They're
right?
super,
So, yeah.
super a lot of tension. So
okay.
so there's that aspect of it. If he watched the deer die slowly, that means he spined it, and there was not the education there from whoever taught him that, like, you gotta be able to put another arrow in it right away.
Oh, okay.
So in my
I thought
mind,
when you said that, I thought he just watched it lay down in the field and kick for a couple, maybe a minute or something like that.
I mean, if you think about it, with the FPS that crossbows are shooting, if you watched a deer die with a crossbow, it's a spine shot. Yeah,
I got you.
It's not going to run off. So in my mind, I would be like I said, I'd be way less fired up about crossbows if I knew there was proficiency training. If you bought,
oh, be careful with that.
Well, granted, this is a one-off thing. I think what it comes from, though, is we were all taught up and mentored under people that were just very passionate about it, and we found a vein of people that are all very passionate about it and express the ethics of it. And it's like we found the demographic that it's like, you know, we really, really care.
Yeah, they didn't grow up like you, right?
Yeah,
essentially.
Basically, it's like, you know, it seems like there's the people who care and there's the people that don't. You know, where it's like, which way are your limbs facing? And it seems like the people.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's like the demographic of people that are genuinely like in the ethics of it and want to see, you know, good conservation and good deer management and bigger bucks and 1 buck tags and like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, your bow's sitting upright, and then you drop the limb sideways, and people are like, F it, kill them all. Like, shoot everything. Don't tell me how I can get my tags. I'm going to go out and kill out, like, whatever it takes, you know. And there's, like, it just seems that's how it is. I understand that is not it across the board. We've had, like, really solid people down in the bunker. Great hunters, good people. They'll bounce back and forth between a bow and a crossbow. It's not a hard set rule. It's just, like, as a general whole, it's like, crossbows,
Right.
And I think it's more because the demographic that gravitates towards crossbows are the less proficient, less ethical group, and that kind of gives it a negative connotation. Now, I'm not saying that there's guys that shoot compounds that are just as non-proficient.
You know, making a point about the different methods, Remy Warren had a shoulder surgery, and he didn't even go to a crossbow. He went to a mouth tap.
John Dudley did the same thing.
Yep. I mean, to say it can't be done or what? I mean, that's just an observation.
So here's the other thing with that too. So this is going like deep, but let's look at like the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
he said there's no crossbows in Olympics, son.
Why, if we're putting crossbows in the same season as compound bows and recurves, whatever, okay, why are they not allowed to use crossbows in competitions like the Olympics?
Because I guess you could consider it. Well, I mean, it just doesn't qualify as archery equipment. It's in the vertical form,
it's
right?
a different class, right?
Different class, right?
So. I mean, in my head,
but this isn't a competition. This is this is.
I know,
meat
but I mean,
right?
That's
so, okay,
a way I look at it.
I've heard a lot of things. I have yet to hear any solutions. What is the solution to crossbows in a hunting season? Where do they belong?
Servicing them the whole
Get rid of them.
Get rid of them. I don't want them. I don't want to see them. So that's the better question, right? Is like is as you know, I guess I'll call you detractors of crossbows, right? You don't like them. You generally want them somewhere else.
I wouldn't say we don't like them.
No.
I'd say we hate them.
You like them for a specific cause, right?
Different category,
right?
Yeah.
So where is it in your hunting season from October 1st to January
November 1st?
Okay.
November 1st to 15th.
First
if
to
you
the
want,
15th.
if you want a season, it's like here's your.
Can
15th.
you use them through rifle season as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's like November 1st,
Yeah.
November 1st until closer.
Like,
It's like here's your 2 weeks where it's like this is appropriate. But
why
for
not
all the people
November
that worked,
15th through January 1st?
see, I like that way better.
Yeah, I kind of
I like
figured.
that
I kind of was
way better.
totally because like
Because-
to me
Absolutely.
when you to even say the
okay.
first is kind of crazy.
Why
Because
not?
That's the
Why
best
not scuba
time
tanks?
to be in.
Why not scuba tanks? Scuba tank seems a little egregious, right? Like, what, you're just going to lump all of it in with a gun? Give us a little bit of season.
He's being far more diplomatic than I expected.
Yeah, I may look dumb.
I like that.
I might be wearing a shirt that says Little Pecker Club. I got a big head up here, buddy.
Little Pecker, big hole.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I have no sides in this race.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm like, here's the thing. Like, you're like, okay, you want a special season. You want a special tool. It's like, okay, we'll give you your special season.
So why not like this, second or first Saturday in November instead? Why not? Right?
I'm just make it easy. It's like,
just give them the week before.
Like, in my mind, the biggest thing would be
if the first Saturday before November 15th.
If you're disabled or you're a senior, you have the ability to use a crossbow from October 1st all the way to January 1st, like normal bow hunters, out with the caveat of gun season. If you are an able-bodied, you cannot prove a disability with a doctor's note, it is November 15th to January 1st.
Okay.
In my mind, that would make sense, because then it might motivate the guy who is able-bodied to say, you know what, I really want to get a bow now, because I want the ability to be able to hunt that big buck that's on food and he's pattern bull. I want to be able to shoot that big buck that is chasing doe during the rut. Yep. So in order for me to do that, now I need to go get a bow, and I need to practice, and I need to be proficient with it in order to get in the woods to do that.
Okay, so all in favor of crossbows from November 1st till January 1st, raise your hand.
Wait.
Okay, so all in favor of...
No, you're giving them the peak rut.
Okay, so then
but
all
here's
in
the thing,
favor...
like, you don't matter, but you don't care about that.
All in favor
you don't
of...
you like the early season anyway.
No,
I like
everybody.
Everybody
knows. Everybody knows.
So all in favor of the 15th, November 15th through the 1st of January for crossbows, raise your hand.
I'm down for that.
Okay, so now you have to go out into the hunting world and say, what does everybody else agree with, and then persuade the NRC.
Now,
let's start with the one buck tag first. That's priority number one.
How crazy would it be if the rifle opener changed?
Whoa, that would be crazy.
I don't see that
happening. To what?
But...
November 1st?
Nope.
Further back?
You think
third
later?
Saturday in November.
What's the reasoning? Just so it's always on a Saturday?
That?
Okay, I honestly might
I would agree with that, because you would end up having more deer taken.
And you have a later season generally.
Yep. Absolutely.
That was something John Walters. That's another thing. Our friend John Walters. I swear to God, he's a man of the people.
That is an inch. Okay,
he wants to talk to everybody. He wants everybody.
Does he live in Lansing area?
He lives in Indian River.
Oh, that's not far.
He travels down here every month to do whatever the meetings are. Right. He comes February 8th. He will be in Lansing, and he would love to talk to you guys.
I got some friends up in Indian River. We could go spend some time with them.
I'm just saying, but like I said, these are great to talk about this. You guys are 15 minutes from the damn place where they make the laws.
Yeah.
Go and talk to these people and be like, hey, and here's a better example. Can you reference any state in generally the Midwest that has a specific crossbow season like that? No. So they're all generally crossbow is just thrown in with
you imagine
archery equipment?
Can you imagine the lashback we would get as a state of Michigan? Not only do we have small bucks, but we're the ones that first instill a crossbow season.
We say, get out of our archery.
Oh they doing over
He's like, okay, hey, no, okay, but hear me out.
We should blame it on
Hear me out. October 1st through November 1st, crossbows are permitted, but does only.
Oh, I'm all for it.
He's a gangster. I'm down. There's an idea. Look at he's about fell out of his seat. He said,
I'm brewing. I'm stewing. Things are just a turning over here, boys.
Does only. I'm here for it.
He said, does only. Crossbows. He said, I don't care if you use a crossbow. But see how funny that whole mood just changed? He said, I don't want any crossbows anywhere in my season unless they're shooting on my nose. Then I'm down with it.
Boys, I think we found our lobbyist.
There's our next shirt idea. Crossbows
I love
for
this.
hoes.
This is great. This is great.
Crossbows for hoes. Oh, that's brilliant. Honestly, crossbows for does.
See, that right there, I think is huge.
Use it as a management tool.
Absolutely.
Use it as a management tool.
Yeah.
Because how many guys out there are going?
So I've heard a lot of arguments for, $1 big buck guys hate the idea of guys using crossbows because they can do exactly what you guys are saying: roll out of bed, grab a crossbow, go smoke a cigarette on their back porch with a pile of corn, and that big 150. That's been on everybody else's trail camera who's living in his backyard, who can then just do it.
Yep.
Right.
Then he goes to the big buck night,
and he's the man. So
in
I've
his
heard
Walmart camo.
I heard a lot of people get kind of angry about that. So maybe like I said, go talk to the people who make the laws and go talk to the people who make the regulations and see where their heads are at, because they might just shoot you down so fast that with an argument that you don't even have. They're like, we're not interested in doing that at all. But
it has to benefit conservation in some way.
Well, we have I don't want to say we're taking advantage of a weird situation, but we have a very, very bad deer herd right now.
Bad doe.
We have a very bad doe ratio, right?
Yes.
So doe to buck ratio. So I'm not saying that you could maybe get something weird in there if, like, just bid on the circumstances, right? If you talk to the right people and you make the right arguments, you just might. All you need is 4.
This is the first guy I've ever met that doesn't just complain and give like, we need to do this. He's just like, here's how we do it.
Well, no, like he stops us amidst our complaining and says, okay, I'm not hearing a solution. Here's your solution.
He goes, hey, you people that live 15 minutes from the solution. What
I hear
doing?
Women complain all the time. I'm not interested in that. Well, let's find a solution. Let's talk about options. Like, that's, that to me is like, yeah, sure, we have a bad, buck to doe ratio.
You just called out the bunker for being a nail salon.
Sure. I kind of, yeah. Was this a cigar
just a bunch of
lounge?
heads clucking down here.
I mean, I just lost my thought a tiny bit. Is our solution a $1 tag or is it an earn a buck tag?
It's
That's
one
also
it's
been a
one or the
topic for
it's
us.
one or the other. I think the earn a buck tag. Here's the thing with the earn a buck tag is what happens if opening weekend you have the 160 walk in front of you.
You still have a buck tag.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you can shoot that 160.
You automatically have one.
You just have to.
You have to kill 2 does to get the second buck tag.
Earn another one.
I like
Yes.
that.
Okay.
So here's my point, right? This would encourage early on doe harvest. If you have one buck in your pocket and you have 2 does, you can't get a second buck until you get the first 2 does, right? So what is it going to encourage you to do? Get them in the early antlerless, right, on private.
To activate your second buck tag.
Yeah,
early
and then
on.
get your first week of October, you're not shooting bucks. You're not looking for bucks. You're trying to get a second doe to get that second buck tag.
Okay, I am like all in favor on this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that to me, and then what happens? You have a 50-50 match by definition, because even if you shot the same amount of bucks, you shoot the same amount of does, 2 for 2. But you would never get that. You'd only get 70% 1 to 2, and then your other 30 or 20%, whatever it is, would be $1, right? Just
Right.
based on the data,
Right.
you say that you get 15 or let's call it 15%. So 15% of your buck harvest is 2 bucks and 2 does, and then your 85% is $1 and 2 does. Or, that's with retrospect. That's just to say every hunter tried to get, that 2 doe ratio to get the second buck tag.
Well, think about how many guys out there just need meat, too. I mean, I guarantee you, if all 4 of us would go shoot 2 does, just because, whether it's a family we know that needs meat or to fill the freezer.
So, I mean, that's just another point, right? Is just to say, do we do an earn a buck tag? Like, you go in the app, you order your, fish hunt combination, right? And instead of a $2, you get a buck and a doe, and then you get the option for a second doe. And then when you have reported that you've killed both your does, you get a second buck tag. And it's the same restricted tag.
That to me makes the most sense because
Still no APR.
No APRs. I
Here's
would
the
say
thing.
it would be a regular and then it'd be restricted.
Second tag would
second
be
tag
APR.
restricted would be 4 on one side or better.
because
I'm sorry,
that's
I didn't mean to interrupt.
because that's gonna make people think twice early on if they're gonna fill their buck tag, that they're not going to want to shoot that forky because then they're going to have to kill 2 does in order to get the APR tag to shoot the bigger buck.
Yep.
So in their
this
mind,
is it.
so they're like, hey, let's wait, let's go after the 10 or 12 or whatever, the
Right,
one,
save
the
for the big
120,
buck.
the 120 to 140, shoot that. If there isn't another 140 on the property, fine, we'll just shoot our doe, get it out of the way, and donate the meat, whatever it may be, to Sportsmen Against Hunger. Then you're done for the season. Or if you're the guy that has 300 acres and has a great farm and you've got multiple 150s and 160s like down in Washington, down where you're at, there's some big bucks down there. Yeah. Anyway,
Washtenaw County.
anyway, Jackson County, like down southern Michigan.
They're all in grass.
I'm just kidding. Come down and get them if you can.
That's
Good luck.
But like for the guys down there that have multiple decent caliber shooter bucks on their property, it's going to incentivize them to kill a good
those.
buck up front, kill 2. They're going to, here's the thing, guys that are bow hunters, that are ethical, that understand the system, they're going to kill does anyway.
Right.
Like they, even with the combo tag, they're already going to kill 2 does.
I'm 1 buck, 3 does this year, by the way.
See, exactly.
There you go.
That proves my point right there.
Yep.
Guys that understand how it works are going to naturally pull those does out of the gene pool because they get it.
Yep.
Other people would much rather shoot a spike or a fork instead of a doe.
You know what I did in Mayo, Michigan? So the first 3 days of the season, because I was saddle hunting, I was able to bounce around. You know what I found? A bunch of little bucks that I didn't shoot. And third day of, I think it was November 17th, I shot 2 does right next to each other. And I didn't shoot a little buck. I was so proud of myself. I was like, I must be the
Boy,
only
how's
person
that
in Mayo, Michigan that did that.
Attaboy.
I took two other TBs on, both tested negative, both mature, took them downstate, got another one, and then I got a nice 8-point off public right next to my house, pretty much. So
The amount of information that's been flying around in the last 30 minutes, I've already lost it. I'm going to have to re-listen to this episode and take notes.
This is
before we
about
go to our meeting.
spearfishing.
yeah, right. I was gonna say, I knew as soon as I started to like talk to you guys, I was like, we're too much related as far as our outdoor activities. Like the only thing is not related to you guys is spearfishing. That's new.
Until now.
I was
Which
just
I've
saying,
dabbled.
Yeah.
Like I've done
Right.
a little bit.
but I was like, we're too much of bow hunters and deer hunters just to not talk about it. I knew it was gonna.
We're going to, I mean, the way I see it, we're going to have monthly legislation meetings on the archery course where he's going to drive up. And
Yep.
we're gonna shoot the course and talk about.
45 minutes is not.
So do you have any solutions?
I've kind of talked. Like I said, the problem isn't with me; it's with you guys. You guys
Yeah.
don't like it, but I have no quorums with sending you in the right direction to hopefully get some answers to those your crossbow friends.
Now,
Okay, hold up.
okay.
I have to pee so badly.
We're gonna
Okay,
we're
yeah.
gonna
I was gonna say, are we getting
I'm
close
gonna
to that
say
250
yes.
mark?
No, we're close because we've got a couple other segments that we want to run through. So we're going to stop and then we will come back for the second half to wrap this up.
Sweet.
Boom. Okay, thank God. Oh, I'm gonna pee so bad.
Okay, so if you could go back and give young John a piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh, a piece of advice.
The
Like-
the ultimate piece of advice. Like if you had one opportunity.
Invest in Tesla.
Oh.
Buy Bitcoin, invest in Tesla.
Right.
outside of stuff like that, if you had one opportunity to go back and give yourself one piece of life advice, non-monetary, what would it be?
Interesting. Honestly, oh God, it'd probably be like woman related, man. It would be like find a girl, like a good down home family orientated girl, and like settle down with her right away. Because now I'm in my 30s, I don't have a woman with me.
Yeah, but
It's a little awkward.
But you legalize spearfishing in the great.
True. I don't. Yeah. Like, dude, that's a great point, right? Like, it's like, where would your life change between now and then?
I'll have to ask Gracie what kind of pickup line that would be. Like you roll up to the bar and you sit next to him, like, so what do you do? He's like, well, I legalize spearfishing in Lake Michigan.
See, this is what
pretty
wingmen
good
are
at-
for.
Can you have you met John?
Well, it almost always devolves to fishing to some regard, and then it's like that's what wingmen are for. That's what my boys are for. They're like, "Do you know him? He's a pretty big deal, like with fishing." And like, what are you talking about?
He's a pretty big deal.
Right.
Oh, really? With fishing? Oh, really?
That's the problem with the online profiles. Is like girls get the ick from guys that always have the grip and grin.
Oh no, those are girls who give the ick. They don't get the ick. You can have them, women. If they don't like your fishing pictures, goodbye. No, sorry.
You heard it.
Yeah, there's like
back to the streets.
Yeah, there's no place for women who don't like guys who can catch fish in my world.
All right, so if you could go back, I mean not go back, but if you could hunt with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, Ted Nugent.
Really?
Dude, Uncle Ted.
Yeah. If I
that's
could,
right. You're down here.
Yeah.
You gotta.
That's my man.
Have
like
you ever-
Fred Bear's cool and all, but I feel like Ted would be a riot.
Have you ever bumped shoulders with him on the legislation aspect? Because I know
he hates the DNR.
Oh yeah, we know.
Immoral. He's not a fan of them. But you know what's funny is that like this is just it's really one sided for me, right? Like when there's a lot of people involved, like in the deer hunting side, like you hear a lot of different voices about the same thing. I was like the one dissenting voice about this tiny little sliver of people who want to shoot fish with spear guns in the state that has the most fresh water in the entire northern hemisphere. And it's like I was just a little voice. So to me, the NRC and the DNR made me feel really big. Like it made me feel like I could make an impact and like I could, make effective change with just, logic and rational, reasoning, whatever. And then, but Ted Nugent makes a lot of really good points about the way they manage things. And it's like, I kind of going back to like what you guys were talking about with like crossbows thing is like, how much authority do you want to give the DNR?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because once you give it to them, you can't get it back. Like once you give it, so it's like, hey, we don't like crossbow hunting, but I also don't want you to have the ability to regulate me out of crossbow hunting.
Right.
Right. So it's like,
Right.
Like I said, we're Americans. We have to look out for each other and our freedoms, and whether I shoot a fish with a spear gun or I shoot a deer with a crossbow, it's like,
it's a very fine
right.
line.
It's a fine line of giving
very fine
authority
line.
to somebody over you. And it's like, and he makes a lot of good points about like, deer go out and they socialize in all these different areas. Why can't I throw some apples on the ground or something? Why is that illegal? He's right. They're all out there licking their faces and, doing the normal things when the DNR is just like, we all have to also remember that the DNR is what? It is the boundary. It is the safeguard essentially for us against the resource, right? It's protecting the resource against us because, we're its biggest threat, right? So it's like we employ these people to protect this resource and then we yell at them for how they do it. So it's like, that's where I can understand where he comes from at the same time, but it's like, it's not, we're humans, it's messy, it's imperfect, and we're doing the best I can. But as long as we have deer to manage, I think we can say that, hey, that's a win, right? Because look at this. Do you know what this number says? 1891. That's the first year a Michigan deer license was ever sold in the State of the Union. Fun fact.
I think that was one of our head-to-head questions.
That's the first time $1.
That's
$1 for a Michigan deer hunting license. So that was the biggest win in conservation, right? That was when, what was it? It was 1890 when like they had to literally federally protect buffalo because we killed 40 million of them or something crazy, right? So remember where we came from, right? We almost killed everything for like leather and meat and whatever. And now we have it. So we're not doing it perfectly, but we're doing it. So I get where Ted's coming from. He's like, hey man, it's ridiculous that I can't throw some, apples on the ground or some beets on the ground or some corn on the ground. And, but at the same time, I've used the same system to get something so simple passed. And I'm like, it's not that bad, is it, Ted?
That's the thing is I think the barrier to entry is so daunting. And somebody like you is sitting there saying, it's confusing, but once you get through the process, it's really not that bad.
I mean, it was just like-minded people just making the same point. Like, hey, man, I'm like, I mean, you could make the same argument. I mean, the only problem is that there's biologists that say we're creating artificial. I mean, this is just for the baiting aspect, right? Like, we're just creating artificial, point where deer can feed. Now they can get CWD or whatever, right? So, like, as a biologist, I'm saying that's a bad idea. We shouldn't do that. Now, and then a lot of people will say, right, here's another good argument, right? A lot of people say we shouldn't be using bait at all, right? Like, you should be able to track the deer and find them in their natural, whereabouts throughout the day, right? But that's a valid point. A lot of people will make that point and say, well, you can't do that. But then a lot of people could say, oh, well, you shouldn't be able to use live bait when you go fishing then. They're like, what are you talking about, right? These are all just like contradicting points, but it all can change based on the method or the animal you're chasing. Right?
I love your mindset of wanting to have an open, free debate where it's like you're not stifling the other person's opinion by any means, but you want to hear their side of the story and you want to play devil's advocate. I feel like in your mind you love the nitty-gritty aspect of that.
Well,
which is awesome.
What it is. That's what it is, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, if you can make that point one way and you can't see it from the other side, you're probably being biased, right? So where can we find middle ground in between, right? Like, hey,
I love it.
Where is it legitimate and where are you just being one-sided? Like, are you just being like, I don't like this and I don't think we should be this way? Okay, that's fine. You can say that. But then your opinion is going to, on my scale, is going to slide down, right? Now you're I'm not going to value your opinion as much because you're simply one-sided, and that's fine. But that isn't going to help me make a better choice overall, right? Because there's hundreds of thousands of us out there doing this. So we have to make the best decision for everybody, right? And it's like, hey, if preserving our deer herd is paramount, right? That's number one. Then we are going to, the people we employ to protect those animals, we, generally have to listen to them with some regards, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess my last question before we move on to our next segment would be, do you think you look at two different scenarios? You've got someone like you that was in the spearfishing realm, was really, really small voice that grew into a big movement, versus the deer realm where you've got, I would argue, hundreds of thousands of people with our mindset right now of
100%
tag reform or whatever. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, but a significant group of people.
It's a license structure issue, right?
Is power in numbers in that regard of getting something done more proactive or less proactive?
Yeah, I have to say that, in my opinion, right, this is fully my opinion, that what you're not seeing, what the Natural Resource Commission isn't seeing, is enough people, right, showing up at the meetings.
Coming forward. Everyone's talking about it, but nobody is coming forward.
Whether it's an email drive or a text drive or a actual meetup, I think if you, like, this is crazy, right? If you get 5, 6, 8 people that show up to a meeting on one topic, that's a big deal. Like, these meetings go mostly unattended.
We get 20 there, the snap of a finger.
I'm saying, if you show up with, okay, fun fact, public testimony, you show up, I think it's 3 or more people. If you represent 3 or more people, general guidelines say 3 if it's a non-agenda item, 5 minutes for public testimony if it is an agenda item. If you represent 3 or more people at that legitimate meeting, they will give you 15 minutes of public testimony.
Holy smokes.
So if you show up, I'm just saying, if you show up with 10 or 15 people every meeting and you just hammer the point,
just keep talking about it,
because they have to listen to you.
15
public
minutes.
Servants.
Well, here's the thing:
you've
got different guys from different areas who are all saying the same.
And they go to different areas generally throughout the year.
You've got guys that are from the west side of the state. We've got guys that are from the Thumb. We've got guys from up north. We got guys from the east side of the state. We got guys from southern Michigan. You've got people from everywhere.
Yep,
that's pretty wild.
Look at their schedules out for the entire year. You know where they're going to be every month, every day. Right, every meeting they have, every month they have it. You know where it's going to be. Coordinate with the people in the area. Coordinate with your, the Quality Deer Management Association or QDMA, whoever it is, whatever organization that's there. Coordinate with those guys and just, hey, we need 10 people to leave, go to work, show up, and all you have to do is get one person, right, to like represent that group. They get 15 minutes now, and then they can hammer home what they want to say. They have open public debate about it.
Freaking love it.
That's as
game
simple
changer.
Yeah, that's as simple as it. I mean, that's what it would take to make this happen. And like I said, Commissioner Walters is on this right now. So whether it happens this year or next year, to me, really comes down to how many people really want to get serious about it. You got to show up. You got to be at the places where the people are making the laws, and you got to be able to say, hey, you're missing us, man. You're missing the point. We are the future. We're the license holders. Do you want me to leave this state and spend my money in Ohio and Indiana or wherever, or do you want to keep it here?
Keep the money here.
Yep. And that's
Absolutely.
another thing I'm trying to get. I just told Walters about this last week. Come home licenses. Why don't we have them?
From prior residents, you mean?
Like, I had a girl
It's a good
friend
point,
way
too.
back in the day. Her dad worked for TransCanada, the oil pipeline. He had to move to Texas to keep his job. So he had a residence in Michigan and had a residence in Texas, Houston, Texas, and he would fly back every weekend. But he couldn't buy
A resident
tag. He had to pay $200, whatever it was, $200 for the.
Interesting.
And he just thought that was ridiculous.
And it eliminated from hunting.
When I came around, he started to hunt because I was hunting so much, and he put the cash up. But it was like the whole point is that if he had the means for it, right? If you didn't have the means, because let's face it, there's not a lot of big bucks in Michigan. Why would you spend $200 for a non-resident tag if you only get a weekend to hunt? Right? No, give those guys an opportunity to buy a $20 tag to, whether they shoot a buck or it doesn't matter, right? You just offer 1,000 licenses to, previous, residents. If you ever held a license in the state of Michigan, boom, you can qualify and then you apply for it. And, I don't know how many people we get to draw for it, but whatever, it's a system that would bring hunters home, right? I think that would be a really good idea. I told Walters about that, and I don't know if that's I think that's a DNR thing. I think DNR actually can create license structures, right? But it's the House of Representatives.
It's all
that
about the
passes
starting. Yeah, it's where to start.
Yeah, so like that's another thing. License fees are set by the House of Representatives, not the DNR, not by the Natural Resource Commission. So
there's layers to it.
Yeah, so when the Wildlife Division or the parks or whoever, right, law enforcement, whatever they charge, like when you get a passport on your Secretary of State, like when you go to renew your car tabs,
yep,
it's like $13 or whatever.
Yep.
The Parks and Rec, like that portion of the DNR, that's legislated. They send they say, hey, this is what it's going to take for us to manage these these facilities, and then they'll send that to the House of Representatives, and they say, hey, we need to increase it by $1 because we can expect this many, passports to be purchased, and then that would help us maintain these parks or create new opportunities or, remodel or whatever. And, that's all how that kind of works out. So also in 2025, license fees are going to go up for fishing. Fun fact.
It's because all those spear fishermen taking all of the
Facts.
Hey, I'm in support of it if that's the basis.
Right. I mean, and the fisheries division has been underfunded for a while now. They haven't had a license, and we have been getting the best fishery on the planet, essentially, in the northern hemisphere for the last almost half of our lives, and we haven't seen a license increase since like '97.
It's true.
And like it's always been $25, $26. It's like, and it's all going up now.
Up to?
Mid-30s, probably high 40s.
It's a drop in the bucket though for conservation.
Yep.
At the end of the day,
you tell me it's $40-something to get a fishing license. I'm okay.
I told him, I was like, hey, charge me for a spearfishing license. Give me a salmon tag. Give me a bass tag. Give me an inland lakes tag. I'll pay it. I don't care.
How much do you pay per month for subscriptions? Would be my question.
Exactly.
If somebody complained about it, it's just like you're paying for Netflix, Amazon
how much do you buy
Prime.
beer? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just
to me,
get over it. Build a bridge.
if that's what it takes to go fishing, that's what I'll go. That's why we put them there. Tell us what it costs to keep this the way it is.
Right.
Because that's the biggest privilege we got is to
Absolutely.
to pay a license fee to be able to do what we do. And that's, the hatcheries and all the things that we have. I mean, it's like that shit ain't free.
Nope.
It ain't free. And it ain't cheap. So, and like you look around any other state, Ohio, I mean, outside of Ohio having the best walleye fishery on the fucking planet, you can't, match another state that has the opportunity that we have. Not really.
It's huge.
Yeah. So it's like, and we're paying the same, it's like, Minnesota has a sliver of Lake Superior and they charge them $26 for a license. And it's like,
we have so many more so many more resources.
So many. It's like incredible.
All right, let's move into the last segment. Well, last two segments of our show. We'll go quick through the gear segment. So before Reed falls asleep on us.
Come on, young man.
He's awake now.
I didn't know we got a new sound.
This is Reed's favorite segment of the show.
When do I do the thing? Gear. I found it.
He found it.
I didn't know we had that. Normally it was like, anyways.
I had to get him fired up. Okay, so here at Ataso Outdoors, we are big gearheads. So this is our gear segment where we talk about gear, all things gear, because we're gear nuts. We love gear. We love the systems and things that God has blessed us with in the different sports. So because you're special in the different realms, we're going to break gear down into two things. We're going to move through quickly because I think we've got about 12 minutes left or whatever before YouTube will cut us off here. But so let's start with spearfishing. Give us the top 5 pieces of gear before you hit the water. What are weapon aside, what are 5 pieces of gear that you have to have?
Mask, snorkel, fins, wetsuit, dive belt, and knife. That is included in that.
What do you use as a knife? Or like what type of knife do you use? Is a better question.
Any specific brand?
It's the one I have currently is a SoFlo, like Southern Florida Spearfishing. He's one of our sponsors for our tournament. Shout out to SoFlo. He has a lot of affordable gear. It's got 2 little things, just a clip knife, just hang it right on your belt, man. And that's how you stone your fish.
Yep.
Cut your line, whatever you need to do with it. Very simple.
I love it. Okay, what's one piece of gear in the spearfishing realm? Every time you pull it out, it just gets you excited. And you're like, wow, I'm so glad I bought that.
Oh, it's this bad boy right here. This is the, I actually don't have, actually, it's Linda. This is Lady Linda. Yeah, this right here is a fish stick spear gun, man. This thing is honestly, the probably the coolest thing I own outside of my bow.
What movie was that where the guy was
Surf's Up?
Yep, Surf's Up. Yeah, you know which one the scene we're talking about with Surf's Up where he's like, this is my girl Amy.
I've heard the audio. I don't think I've actually seen the movie, but yes, I have seen it. But this is it, man. Honestly, like
this is Linda, dirty
Linda.
girl.
Yep. Every time, like I said, you all the artwork and just the craftsmanship they're going. It's just
something to behold.
This is like when I pull it out, I know.
I was gonna say, does that get the ladies fired up when you whip that out?
Wow, you say it like that, yeah. No, actually, no, it's perverted. No, just kidding.
For our audio listeners, make sure to go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel for some context.
Yes, it's just a spear gun. No, it doesn't excite the ladies. It excites my boys. That's the problem. It's just like working out,
You get hit up by all the boys.
Yeah, all the guys are like, you look great.
Spear gun.
Like, oh, look at that thing. Girls like, what are you doing?
Oh,
you smell like fish.
All right. Bow hunting or other just bow hunting or hunting weapon aside, top 5 pieces of gear you have to have.
Oh man, the method saddle, so nice. Love that thing.
By Latitude Outdoors.
Yeah, by Latitude Outdoors.
Okay.
Oh, so I have Shikar climbing sticks. I think those are fantastic.
Does Latitude make their own climbing?
They do now. They have some carbon fiber ones.
I saw they released those at ATA.
I haven't purchased those yet. I was kind of looking into them. I mean, anything that makes you light and mobile is like a huge fan of. So I guess I go with the saddle, the sticks, obviously the bow, big Magnus Black Hornet broadhead fan. If you're aware of that, because you always got to,
Interesting.
broadhead's got to be right up. If you're, if you ain't talking about the sharp end of the stick, what are you talking about?
You got to remove your bow from that, though. Weapon aside.
What do you mean?
You can't this is gear outside of weapon.
Oh, gear outside. Okay,
Yeah, because we're all going to say our bow.
okay.
We all love our bows.
So can I say the? Okay, so I got the
Saddle,
we got the saddle,
climbing sticks,
got the broadhead.
broadheads. So 2 more.
Great question. Probably like my grunt tube.
Nice.
I got a flex tone. It works really good, I guess. I like calling deer in. I think that's awesome. Like when you actually get a deer to like react, it's like, holy cow, that's like the best thing ever. Oh, and then honestly, footwear. I actually won a pair of, I can't even remember what boots they are. I won them at Total Archery Challenge in Big Sky. They sent
no
them to
way.
me. Yeah. They're like
Crispy?
No, apparently they're better than Crispy. I
Ooh.
forget what they are. They're like high tech or something like that.
Cool.
But yeah, I won those, and they are probably the most rugged but also warm pair of boots I've ever owned. And I was like,
It's awesome.
very, very happy with that. So
Briefly tell us about your bow setup.
Prime Synergy, got it secondhand from, I think his name is Corbin. He runs some TV show. He's out of like South Carolina. Messaged him on Instagram when the new Prime Logic came out, and I was like, I noticed you're left-handed.
Ooh.
And I was like, if you're looking to get rid of that bow, I'll take it. And he was like, I'll let you know. Like 3 months later, he hit me up and he's like, you still interested? I was like, hell yeah. And he sent it to me right
That's
to
cool.
my doorstep. So got that with a IQ bow sight
Nice.
by To Death Do Me Part. I love the IQ bow sight.
Is that a slider? Single pin?
It is a micro adjust,
Okay.
3-pin.
Okay.
No, 5-pin. I'm sorry, 5-pin. And it's got the retina lock. Have you ever used retina lock?
No.
Retina lock is basically, it's like a circle with green and it has a black dot in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
and you have to set that up. And if
Interesting.
you torque it or anything's off, you'll see it on the dot when you draw your bow back, and it tells you if you're aligned right.
Interesting.
And that when I have that in my hand and I draw back and I see that black dot in the center of that and that retina lock, I know 100% I'm dead nuts. I'm going to hit exactly where I'm aiming.
So here's my question with the 5-pin sights. How does that work with like Total Archery Challenge when you're taking 120?
I have 2 separate sights.
Okay. Okay. So you got a target sight.
Yeah, so I have a target sight. It's a single pin. It's a Trophy Ridge.
Nice.
And it goes out to like depending on my arrow weight, it can go out to 120.
There you go. Okay.
So-
I was wondering about that.
That's
I know
cool.
a couple guys that run different sights.
Yes.
Okay.
That's, yeah. And the best part about sights, it's like literally 2 screws. You can put it right back on as long as you don't adjust your rest or your peep. It's like almost right on as soon as you put it back on.
I know guys that run 2 dovetails and it's just whoop, slide it out,
Yep.
slide it in.
Yep. And it's like,
It's ready to rumble.
it worked. So I never really changed it. I could buy better sights and whatever, but
All right, what's the one piece of gear bow hunting wise every time you pull it out, it gets you fired up?
is it allowed to be my bow?
No.
No. Gosh.
There's one piece of gear I know that you're just like, this is a great tool and I love using it.
Man, I feel so on the point.
It can be anything from like
is
a
it my-
rangefinder,
I was saying,
binos.
is it my? Can I say my camera arm?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
That's
so
a piece
my-
of gear.
Yeah, camera arm. Like
What are you running?
4th arrow.
Nice.
4th arrow camera
That's a
arm.
great
Yeah.
camera arm.
And yeah, I think I got my G30, Canon G30 I put on that, and like that's yeah. When I have that out, it's going down.
Have you put a Mag Pro on your bow yet from Painted Arrow Outdoors?
Oh, is that the bang tip?
No. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. We're about to change if you film your hunts, we're about to change everything. Painted
Okay.
Arrow Outdoors.
Okay.
Guys from actually right down, not too far from where you're at. It's this mount that goes on your stabilizer, and it's a phone safe magnet, and you actually can magnet your phone to your stabilizer. So when you're drawing back, it will film your shot for you. It'll give you a POV first person shooter shot of your
$50. You're gonna be all right.
Can I tell you guys a little? I hate those kind of rests. I've had Tacticam and the GoPros.
On your stabilizers,
and it with the shot goes, it's just so shaky, and I never remember to hold my bow. I just was like,
it's true. It's an extra thing. If you're already self filming with an arm,
if I'm already
it's
doing
different.
this,
Yeah, it's different.
I have seen those.
They're incredible for the person who's trying to get into a self-filming and they want to have that live.
And image stabilization has come a long way since I've done that. So that
Absolutely.
I'm just saying from back in my days, back in 2012, 13, when I was doing it, I didn't like it.
These guys have changed the game
Okay.
for self-filming, especially with phones.
What's their name again?
I'll send it to you. It's Painted Arrow Outdoors.
Painted Arrows. Okay.
Yep. Okay. We're going into the final round of our show. This is the lightning round. We're going to throw some questions at you.
Okay.
And then...
I'm obviously not very good at this.
Okay, so this is knee-jerk reaction,
Quick as you
just
can.
like as quick as you can answers.
Okay.
Read.
Family Feud style.
Go.
Would you rather shoot a Boone and Crockett typical or non-typical?
Non-typical.
Ooh, all right. Would you rather own a 3,000-acre high-fence ranch in Texas or a 500-acre farm in Michigan, unfenced?
3,000 in Texas.
Would you rather be mauled by a bear or bit by a rattlesnake?
Do I survive the bear? Yes. Bear.
Oh, would you rather be attacked by a moose or a wild boar?
Boar.
All expense paid Wyoming elk hunt or Canadian moose hunt?
Moose. Moose hunt.
Favorite outdoor brand?
G5.
Ooh, all right.
Go-to snack in the field? Underwater included.
Homemade energy bars.
Oh.
I like it. You have a bounty on your head. Would you rather be hunted by Ted Nugent or Fred Bear?
Ted Nugent.
The Motor City Mad.
Respectable. Would you rather step on a bear trap or fall from your tree stand?
Fall from my tree stand.
Nice.
All right. Last one. You have to kill a deer. All you have is jumper cables, vice grips, paracord, and a sand wedge. How do you do it?
Can you list those items one more time?
Yeah. You have jumper cables, vice grips, paracord, and a sand wedge. How do you kill the deer? Create the
A
scenario.
sand wedge like a golf club?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you do it? This is a you have to eat, live or die scenario.
Okay, so jumper cables. I don't have a current source.
Yeah, leave it up to the Sparky to be like, how do I hook this thing
Right,
up?
yeah.
How
So I
many
was
bolts
like,
do
I
run?
don't have any. Yeah. So what I would do is I would probably use the paracord to try and get a buck's antlers entangled over like a scrape.
No, I like it.
Right. So
I like
I'd
it.
figure out some kind of webbing, something to, get it going. And I just beat it to death with a sandwich.
There we go. I love it. I love it. That's
He's
a
a
great
blunt
way.
force guy.
I think it's the best chance I got there. I don't
All
think
right.
I'd be able to use the jumper cables maybe to cook the meat, maybe if I could get a battery and then
So the final segment that every guest in the PodBunker gets to do is called What the Fart.
okay, what the
I'm
fart?
going to pass the fart dictionary to you.
Okay.
Now the rule with What the Fart is you crack the fart dictionary and the first one that your eyes lay upon,
Word or
the first, like, so it's going to be a dictionary with like
Okay.
all different definitions. Whichever first one you see, that is yours. And you have to read that to the group and then you sign your name next to it. And it's forever the Jon Durtka fart.
meteorite fart. A fart so condensed in mass, it feels as if a hole has burned through your underwear. I think I've actually done like 2 of those while I was here.
I've been holding back a few of those
All right.
because I was going to kill you.
Write your name next to it. That is forever the Jon Durtka fart.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so where can the people find you?
Oh, you can find me online
Where at?
on Instagram at purely mi spearfishing and YouTube at purely mi spearfishing. You can find me on Facebook as Michigan Spearfishing Association. And that's about it. That's all I got for
Guys, make
socials.
sure to go check out his stuff. He posts some really, really great content as far as reels go. Everything. It's It's awesome. If you're interested in getting involved more in the spear hunting or the spearfishing realm, especially in the Great Lakes, go subscribe to his channels and send him a message, direct message, anything like that. And
the spearfishing community is very small, so I take out just about anybody who asks to go out. So
there we
I have
go.
No issues.
I love it. We're gonna get out in the water with you this summer for
You're
sure.
damn right
Until
you
we
are.
get to take you to
We're
our
not
secrets.
doing-
We'll
we're
take
not
you to
do-
our secret spot in 2025.
We're not doing this and not going spearfishing. I tell you that.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in this evening. We had a freaking blast. As always, the show grows organically, so if you learn something, make sure to share the show. If you have any questions, reach out to us on Instagram at atasso.outfitters or in the comments. All these videos, full-length videos, are on YouTube now at Atasso Outfitters. Our website is also atassooutfitters.com, where our merchandise is at. That kind of helps keep this bandwagon on the tracks. As always, I'm Caleb. We've got Reed, Hunter Ducked Out, and we've got Jon Durtka. We will catch you guys on the next episode. See you later.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Bless you.
Hell yeah,
Beat it with
guys,
a
this is
sandwich.
awesome. So can I rent this out from you? No, just kidding.
Dude.